Good morning, everybody. I'll call the committee of the whole meeting, May 21st, 2026 to order with the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge Athabasca County is located on First Nations Treaty 6 and Treaty 8 traditional territory. We respect and honor all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples' connection to these lands, their history, language, and culture. So before we get started, just to let everybody know, Councillors Chamzik and Kapachaniak give their regrets, can't make it today, and Reeve Holland may be joining us later on by Zoom. And so from there on, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Councillor Stasiak has made a motion to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carried.
At what point do we add on to the agenda, or we can't? Pardon me? There was approval of the agenda. Okay.
We could,
No, I'm sorry. I'm not adding anything. It's just a question for myself.
oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
7 days before the meeting.
If you wanted to bring anything up to move on to the agenda or to add on to the agenda would be about that time to bring it forward and say, I'd like to add this on or whatever, and then we'd vote on it, right? So, did you want to add something on?
No.
Okay.
Wondered at what point.
Yeah.
Before we approve it or after?
Yeah. Well, it'd be before we approve it. We look for approval and then you would say, hey, I'd like to. You betcha. So that passes 6-0. Approval of the minutes from the April 21st, 2026 meeting. Anybody see anything? No. So Councillor Calahoo has made the motion to approve the minutes. All in favor? Motion carried 6-0. So the next one is 4 is delegations. We have one from Alta Link at 10 and one from the RCMP at 10:30. So we'll go from there. We'll jump right into it to number 5, which is roundtable discussions with. Let's start 5.1 CAO update on page 41 of your agenda. Which should be here. So thank you for the update, CAO, and that. Any questions for the CAO regarding his report? Seeing none. I guess one question I have is everything moving forward pretty good on the water line project?
What's pretty good?
Well, like it's you're having meetings with.
Yep,
with-
meetings are happening.
Yeah.
We work on it every day.
Okay.
So it's not stalled. I put hours into it every day.
Perfect. Okay. Councillor Stasiak.
Thank you to administration. Work on new public works building acquisition, is that complete now? Or I see an email about doing a site visit there. Everything's in place, done?
We took possession on Friday.
Great, thank you.
That's great news. Councillor Dahalik.
Yeah, Bob, the Highway 63, how much work did we do, or how much help did we do during the storm? Was it, I think this is the storm, Highway 63?
You mean the event?
Yeah.
Earlier, about a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think I outlined that to council in an email.
Yeah.
The major blockage happened far north of our
Yeah,
boundary.
yeah.
And it was basically very near the boundary between Lac La Biche County and Wood Buffalo. So it was way outside our jurisdiction. We offered some resources, and our rescue contractor provided some services. Yeah, kind of hard to say. Wood Buffalo handled much of that event themselves. And there was a lot, there seemed to be some coordination issues between transportation and other partners. But we offered what we could.
Okay, that's exactly what I'm looking for. We offered to help.
Yeah, and it was a long ways north of our boundary. Kind of a weird, we have a response area that's about halfway up to Wood Buffalo, and beyond that, that's Wood Buffalo's response area. So that was way beyond our response area. And that's under mutual aid agreement with Lac La Biche County.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, CEO, for your report. We'll move on to page 42. Director Morton's Infrastructure Services Report. Good morning.
Morning.
Any discussion to Director Morton? Questions? Councilor Suzie?
Thank you to administration. On page 45, update for open space and groundskeeping policies for council. Can you explain that for me? Thank you. Is it just general information?
Yeah, that we've been working on the service level, and you guys have seen the original.
Yep. So nothing changed, everything's good. Okay. And another question is dust control. I'm assuming you got my email about Mystic Meadows.
Yeah, I haven't followed up on that one yet.
Okay,
But
just curious.
we haven't started yet, but if I'll look at that road that they want to know if they qualify for.
Okay, but the options are there still for them, or is it too late in the game?
Well, there's a late fee.
Oh, I see. Okay. But you'll explain that to them
Yeah.
and deal with that. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, or? I guess just to mark it down on my end there, I got a email from a ratepayer the other day regarding going into Poplar Point off of Whispering Hills Road. There's a few potholes in there if they could be repaired, and in between the fiber mat and road oil, things are starting to happen there. They were wondering if anything was going to be done with that roadway this year or not. So it's just a kind of a heads up of what email that I got there. So I said I'd move it along. So
Okay, so pothole patching or repairs have been started early this week. I think actually Friday they were doing some as well. So I don't know if those ones have been done yet, but I'm sure they're on the list. The guys have a long list that they're working
Yeah.
on. As far as some of the other, I'll have to look at the road. There's no significant money in the budget to do repairs on that road, but I'll go have a look at it.
is there, we were going to do a program, start looking at a program for rehabilitation of hard surface roads or asphalt roads and stuff like that. Is that ongoing right now?
Yeah, we've awarded the engineering, the tender is being prepared. The ones on the list for this year is Blue Heron and White Gull.
Perfect. No, no, that sounds good. I just wanted to let everybody know that that this is moving
Yeah.
forward, so perfect. Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? Counselor Hall?
So I think last year or the year before, can't remember now, your department undertook a test project on hard surfacing up near Alpac and also near the airport. Just wondering if you've had a chance to look at it and have any, if you've had a chance to look at how it's standing up to this point and any feedback or comments, or is it too early for that?
Through the chair, you know what, that's ironic. I was out last week, wanting to see the same thing. So far, it's standing up great, especially the one up north by Alpac. Significant truck traffic on that one. I know there was a concern raised that there was a repair on it. That repair happened, I believe it was 2 days after we did the project. A trailer came unhooked and the hitch dug into the road. It wasn't a failure. It was damage from a hitch. So there's no failures last week when I was out and looked at them. They've been performing very well. Frost isn't all out yet. So, you know, we got another, I'd say we're still probably 2 weeks from all the frost being out of the roads. So that'll be, you know, kind of the telling tale, but so far we've seen nothing but positive results out of what we've done.
And is there maps forthcoming to show us the planned graveling areas this year? I think we had some that, you know, were the beginning of your analysis, and is that something we should expect? And then also, are there maps coming that would outline the priorities for the repairs that are going to undertake? Understanding that what you might have planned to do in January will be very different now that we've had the thaw and the road washouts. And is that something that we'll see kind of imaging?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. You know, our initial map that we kind of created for the proposed graveling for this year has changed dramatically since that time when it was created, and we'll get you a new one. You know, it probably, and even we had started on a map, we had it ready to present on shoulder pulls. That's kind of gone out the window, right? The focus will be on roads that experience significant challenges during the spring. So that time and effort will be spent on those. And I guess we can put together a list of those roads. We have it on the map, but.
Well, Mr. Chairman, might as well just tell you, just to preempt some more questions. We've got a presentation ready to go for 1 week from today at the council meeting on all the road damages from the spring, showing all the locations and locations in each division. And then we've got a sample kind of data sheet from one repair in each division about what's going into the repairs. So that'll be at the next council meeting.
Thank you. And I recognize it's quite operational, but it's just beneficial to understand all the work you guys are doing to fix the problems.
Counselor Dog?
Yes, would it be possible to have some pictures up of the damages?
Yep.
It's coming next week.
It is coming. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you for the questions too. I was hoping that that Alpac area would hold up underneath that hard surfacing, because that was a good spot to put it, just to see what's the airport road looks pretty good too. Yeah, so that's positive news. Thank you very much for that, and looking very forward to seeing that report. So, and I think anybody else got any other questions? I know the guys have worked very hard. You got Northwest County's got amazing crew that some of them have been through this before, and I give my I give my support wholly to them. Great job done by all during the spring melt, so. Any other questions? So, Councillor Cheeseman.
Um, any idea when road bounds will be coming off? Just, I've been asked a few times, so.
Yeah, so like I said, through the chair, sorry. We're probably a couple weeks before the frost being out. You know, we need a little, depending on weather, right? So we just need a little time for the roads. Once the frost is out, they need a little bit of time to reconsolidate and settle down. So, you know, if we got any significant rain, that would maybe change my timeline a bit, because that would draw the frost out quicker. But I would say we're at least 2 weeks away.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you very much for the
Thank you.
report and everything. We'll move on to Chief Shalapais. Protective Services. Good morning.
Morning. I have some big shoes to fill here today, so please let me know if you have any questions regarding the Community and Protective Services report.
We could hammer away is what he's saying. Councillor Stasiak.
First question, the survey that you sent out, as Reeve Holland told you in an email, we cannot submit it. For some reason, it does not accept the first portion, like when we itemize the priority. What does it add up to, or what are we looking for here?
Through the chair, there was an email just before council started today that's been corrected. The way the system kind of bugged out on us, we asked for the percentage it totaling 100 before. For the 1 to 7, it was also looking for 100, so we've corrected that. So you'll be able to go in now and prioritize 1 through 7, and it'll work just fine.
With just using a number and not a percentage beside it?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. That was a struggle.
Okay, any other?
Another question is the update, land lease agreements for cemeteries user groups. I know we've discussed this a little bit before and straightened it out. Is there still some ongoing information about it?
We haven't had time to do any more work on it.
All right.
Councillor DeHolick.
Yes, how is our gravel situation? I know we started graveling and are we okay?
That's not really.
Oh, I'm
through
sorry.
Philippi's
Oh, okay,
department,
yeah,
but,
it's my fault.
so what do you mean by what's our gravel situation?
I know we started gravel. We got enough in stock, like piles and stuff?
We're sourcing additional.
Okay,
We had enough supplied this year to do our normal graveling program, but we are sourcing additional materials to fix, so.
okay, rightfully so. Yeah. Wait.
Perfect. That was a good one for Chief Shalapai, though. Keeping him on his toes. And seeing any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You bet. Oh, now we will move on to page 60, Corporate Services Department. Assembly, good morning.
Good morning. I'm open to any questions council or the committee may have.
Any questions at all? Going pretty smooth. Okay. Seeing none. Oh, Councillor Hall.
Are you able to share anything about the ATI requests, or is that all confidential except what you put here?
It is all, through the chair, it is all confidential at this point, and we're just waiting for further direction from one of the applicants to proceed with it.
So that's got to do with the quote for how much it costs them to when they request something, they have to pay for that. Okay,
Yeah, it just depends on how comprehensive of the application is and how many documents they need and how much research is done. I can tell you that one is specifically related to planning and development, and there's quite a bit of research that has to be done. So we're just waiting to hear back from the applicant if he or she wants to proceed.
perfect. Yeah. Okay. I think everything looks really well, so thank you very much. So now moving on to the finance department update. It looks like our delegation is here, but are you looking after that one too?
Director Daly is away on a conference, so he's just asked me to sit in on his behalf. Hopefully I can answer any questions.
Perfect. Councillor Hall?
Still related to the previous report, but I think it just is worth pointing out or thinking about how much money we spend as a county on community group operating grants and budgets. And there was $140,000 that have been distributed so far to places like the community halls and the community associations and the massive impact that does for those groups in terms of their ability to carry on and do good things in the community. And so it's easy for that to slide through in a report without, that's on page 62, for that to not maybe get the attention that I think it deserves in terms of the good work that our region does for those groups. So not really a question, but just an acknowledgement that, that there's been a significant distribution so far.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Just to add to that, and through the chair, we have flagged this for the next newsletter to just to let the community know how much the county actually contributes to the community groups and the halls. So we have flagged that as an article, and we'll go into detail about that one in the article.
Perfect. Councillor Stasiak.
Thank you, through the chair. I apologize. I missed one of my highlights here from your other presentation, and hopefully it'll be quick. But on page 60, records management, currently preparing a list of records that have reached the end of their retention period for destruction. My question is, there are times that I've noticed that administration said we can't find anything in our records about this, that, or the next thing. Is that possibly because we have destroyed them, some of those records? Like, is it a good thing to destroy some of these records, or can I get some clarification on that?
Certainly, and through the chair, we have a bylaw that only permits council to authorize any destruction of records, and we have records of all of the records that have been destroyed. So when we're doing our searches, and that's part of our search, is taking a look at our destructed records, we always verify through that process as well. So right now, we're just finding there's a lot of records that are outdated, that aren't really relevant anymore. So we will be coming before council at some point with a report and some details on records we think that are due for destruction.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that.
Councillor Hall.
So two things. I wanted to congratulate administration on the significant improvement in accounts receivable management and the balances being significantly down. And as you probably remember, I always ask you about why they're so high. So I think it's important to acknowledge when you've really made progress. The other question was, and I think maybe this is for council to provide direction on, but we had the budget presentation at a recent meeting, or not the budget, sorry, the year-end financial statements. And then, we go read in the paper that, there's a gigantic surplus. But the problem with financial statements is that they do not take into account budgeted savings and budgeted reserve transfers. And so I'm wondering if in the future we could have a practice where, while we're presenting that, we also in parallel say, and of the net income, the surplus, X many dollars have been budgeted for transfers to reserves. Because I think, the way it gets reported in the media is misleading. We didn't budget, we didn't underspend in a vast way. Council made strategic decisions to save money, and savings can, in the way financial statements are built, only come through surplus. It's not an expense because of the GAAP rules and all that. So it's like, to me, it overstates how much money we've collected. We didn't have a $5.5 million budgeted
Mhm.
surplus. So I think we need to do a better job at how we communicate what's actually going on to our repairs, because that looks like we messed up.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if you go back and watch the recording for that meeting, you'll recall that I asked Mr. Alliston of Metrics, okay, of the surplus, you just said, how much of it is cash? And he said, well, I said, is it about 1.8? And he said, yeah, it's probably about 1.8 in cash. So the subsequent meeting, we took an item ahead to say, can we designate the 1.8 in cash surplus from the previous year towards emergency road repairs? Yeah. Auditors have a different outlook on what a surplus is, and the rest of us in the room think a surplus is how much cash you have at the end of the month. They include a whole bunch of things that are not true surpluses, but in their world it is, and it is deceptive. And so for an organization our size with our budget the way it is, 1.8 million dollar surplus is actually, we're getting close to that. That's really good. Wasn't that the year before, and the year before that, we had true cash surpluses much greater. So we're getting better. But you're right. It's not half a $5.5 million cash surplus. They include deferred revenue and deferred grants from the province and things like that. So 100% correct.
I guess, yeah, and just to rebuttal on that a little bit too. We have to watch how we read the paper as the last few papers that came out. There's been some stuff wrote in there that doesn't really fit the bill, but that's how they're
It's
reported.
about the message that communicates to the community though. Like, what you think about the quality of the writing is, it's really about what does the community perceive when they see a front page headline that, big letters says something. And so I just think we have a responsibility to make sure that we make it easy for them to not mess up on significant stuff. And we saw it the year before too, where they, put some other gigantic number that was almost entirely based on non-cash paper adjustments to the statements. But when you're at the burger bar or the, central sales reading the paper, they don't, the analysis is not that deep. There's a gigantic surplus. So my point is that we just have to make sure we're doing our part to communicate. The actual cash portion is this number, and of that cash portion, we had planned on having, this many, whatever, I can't remember the numbers we put, but on reserve contributions equaling another number. Because anytime you have an organization like ours that comes in with significantly different numbers in budget, to me, it means either you didn't do a good job of budgeting, or you didn't do a good job of actually getting the job done, or something else happened. And like if we're, we don't, this isn't like another business where you try to generate a profit. We try to figure out how our expenses are, and then we pull in the cash that just covers those. We're not trying to generate a 20% return on our earnings, because there really are no earnings. Anyway, thank you for the clear answer, CIO.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, we have a delegation at 10 o'clock, so we'll put this on hold for right now. And we'll bring in a delegation. We'll take probably no, we got to go into counselor update. Well, that part of it, but we got to go into counselor updates. So we'll come back to counselor updates later, and after the delegations, and then we'll take a 5-minute break. think we're okay to go. It's been about 5 minutes, right? So we can reconvene the meeting and say good morning to our delegation. Thank you for joining us from Altalink. We'll go around and introduce the counselors and then we'll take off from there. So we'll start with Ken.
Good morning. I'm Cody Callahoo, Division 9, so north of the Athabasca River area.
Brian Hall, Division 4, southwest of Athabasca.
Good morning, Lucille Chisholm, Division 3. So I'm from the Caslin, Boyle, Elscott area.
Good morning.
Oh, Jack, Mike.
Good morning, Jack DeHolick. Division 6 is the Wandering River Alpac area.
And good morning, Rob Mins, Division 8, Baptiste Lake Island Lake area. We have a few counselors couldn't make it. Counselor Chamzik and Kapitaniak, Division 2, Division 7. Give their regrets, and our Reeve Holland, she may be in by Zoom possibly, but she gives her regrets too. Joining us also is Angela Kuzmirchuk, Communications Coordinator, Ms. Leah Blair, Recording Secretary, our CAO, Mr. Beck, and behind him is, you were talking to him, Chief Shalapai. And go ahead and introduce yourselves and we'll go from there.
Great. Well, thank you for having us today. My name is Colin Harvey. I'm the Municipal and Community Relations Manager with Altalink.
Morning, everyone. My name is Brendan Pan. I'm the Wildfire System Operations Engineer with Altalink.
Good morning, Brian Kelly. I'm the Emergency Response Program Manager at Altalink.
Okay. Perfect. Oh, I went too far. Sorry, I'm pushing the wrong buttons. Good enough. All right. Yeah, thanks for having us. So we're here. We wanted to present to council on our wildfire mitigation plan that Altalink has. So just to start off a little bit about who Altalink is. So we are Alberta's largest transmission provider. So we have over 13,000 kilometers of substations, over 13,000 kilometers of transmission lines and over 300 substations in our service territory. And that's in that dark blue area there. And so within the province, we service the large majority of Albertans because we're in the more heavily populated areas. So as a transmission provider, we operate our lines at the higher voltages. So we operate our lines between 69 kilovolts up to 500 kilovolts or 500,000 volts. And we work very closely with Fortis Alberta. They're obviously the major distribution facility owner in the area. So we deliver the power to Fortis, who brings it into your communities. Kind of a little bit more about that. So this kind of just shows a really simple way of showing how the flow of power works in Alberta, just to show where Altalink fits in. So I'll start on the left with our power generation. So in the province, our generators are largely gas, wind, solar, and hydro. And as they generate electricity, it goes through their substation and it gets pushed up onto the transmission system. And that's where Altalink would fit in. And so we move that power in bulk across the province to the areas where that power is needed. So we don't actually own the power that flows down our lines. We just own the facilities to transport the power across the province to where it gets to our substations, where we step the power down, move it over to the distribution facility owner, which largely, like I said, is Fortis. And Fortis then takes that power and actually physically connects it to your homes, farms, businesses, etc. And then in between there, you have your retailers. So your Direct Energy, ATCO Energy, whoever you purchase your electricity from. So just moving into wildfires now, I'm sure we can all agree that wildfires have become more severe and intense over the last few years. And I think those stats that we have at the top of that slide really speak to that, where you can see over the last 10 years, the average number of fires per year is about the same. It's about 11 to 1,200 fires per year. But the the hectarage that these fires burn has significantly increased, especially in the last 3 years where, the average in the first 8 years was about 280 hectares, 280,000 hectares, and we're up into the millions in 2023. So significantly larger. In Alberta, less than 10% of the fires are started by electricity infrastructure, but we still acknowledge that there's a risk that our facilities can ignite fires out there. And we take that very seriously because we want to make sure our communities are safe. So in that light, since 2019, AltaLink's had a wildfire mitigation plan, has been a leader in the utility world in that since that time. And we just continue to build and enhance that as we learn more over the years.
I was just gonna ask a quick question.
Sure.
10%, is that just AltaLink or is that 10%?
Utilities as a whole.
Utilities as a whole?
Yeah, so electrical utilities as a whole. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
This diagram here just shows the components that make up AltaLink's wildfire mitigation plan. And I'll just touch on each one starting on the bottom left to kind of let you know what we're doing there. So the first one is our risk-based approach. So what we did is we worked with a third-party wildfire expert, and what they did is they helped us map out our entire transmission system where we identified areas of high-risk fire areas. So these aren't areas that we would anticipate more fires to ignite. It's more so that if a fire did ignite along our facilities in that area, there's potential for a more catastrophic fire. So closer to communities, et cetera, that the fire could cause more damage in those areas. And those high-risk fire areas really focus our efforts in terms of the rest of the components that we work through, which includes strengthening our assets. So what we're doing there is in those areas, we're working through a program where if we have wood cross arms on those transmission lines, we're removing those to replace them with steel, to remove that as an ignition source, removing old insulators, which are those cone shaped strings that hold the lines on, removing those and putting on new ones to make sure that those are in good repair. From a situational awareness perspective, we've added 17 weather monitoring stations across the province in areas that the available weather stations had pockets in, so that we have data in those areas. We've added cameras in some select areas, so we have that real-time validation as well. And we get daily wildfire weather reports from our third-party wildfire expert too, to let us know what the weather's doing right across our service territory, which helps us inform our operational decisions. From there, our incremental maintenance and inspection. So in those high-risk fire areas, we're inspecting those lines more regularly. So we're making sure the vegetation is in good shape around the transmission lines and making sure the transmission lines themselves are in good repair. And if there's issues there, those get escalated and moved quicker to get those issues resolved. Enhance operational practices. As we hit more high-risk fire days, so more intense weather, we have operational practices that we employ, which is essentially what we have in our substations is equipment called auto reclosers. So if a line trips, those auto reclosers try and re-energize the line right away so that we don't have loss of service. And what we do is we block those. So it'll try and energize the line once, and if it trips, the line stays down and we send somebody out to go find out why that's happening, so we don't keep trying to hit it and it ends up potentially igniting the fire. And then the last one there is and it's our last resort, is our public safety power shutoff. And so what the public safety power shutoff is, this is a last resort preventative measure we have in our toolbox. It's being used a lot down in the States right now, and it's something we're implementing here now in Alberta as well, where once we get into extreme and dangerous fire weather conditions, so this is very extreme, in those areas, we would look to proactively turn off the transmission line in those areas to remove that ignition source during those extreme weather events. Again, it is a last resort measure. We are a utility. We take a lot of pride in keeping the power on. So the last thing we want to do is turn the power off. But if we think it's the safest thing to do for the communities we serve, it's a step we're willing to take. And so when we're looking to do a public safety power shutoff, we're looking at a number of different factors. So the first four, I would say, would be our proactive public safety power shutoff, where in a weather forecasted scenario, that we would be looking at these criteria. So that would be the wind conditions, humidity levels, how dry the vegetation is, how dry it has been, and using those real-time observations like those weather stations, cameras, boots on the ground were available as well to make the decision whether a public safety power shutoff is needed. The last one is a fire in the vicinity. So what AltaLink does, this is more of a reactive. So if a fire ignites anywhere near our lines for whatever reason, lightning or anything, and is burning towards our lines, we would look to proactively turn off those lines as well, so that any debris flying ahead of the fire head doesn't hit our lines, ignite, drop, and we spread that fire faster than maybe it normally would on its own. So it's another one we do. We actually did that in Lac La Biche last year during those big fires that were burning up towards the plants. We proactively turned off our lines in those areas ahead of that fire. So as we move, so we do have a process we follow when we're moving to a public safety power shutoff. It involves constantly monitoring the weather conditions. So we're always reviewing those. If the weather forecast improves, we obviously back away from doing the public safety power shutoff. But if those thresholds and the weather conditions remain, we move into PSPS watch. And at that point, we would be looking to start engaging with the municipality. So we'd be reaching out to the DEMs in the areas we're anticipating the power to be off, so that they can begin to plan what they need to on their side. If those thresholds continue to hold, we'd move into the protocols where we start our operational decision making there. And at that time, we'd also be looking to engage with elected officials to make sure that they're aware that this is happening. Prior to about a day before the power would go off, we would start to look to engage the community as a whole. So we work very closely with Fortis to do that. They have the customer list, so we work with them to help us get the message out to the customers, as well as working with the comms team with the municipality as well, so that we're all aligned and getting the same messaging out there. Up until the point the power goes off, and the power would remain off until the weather forecast improves and we see we're getting below those thresholds, at which point we'd look to re-energize the transmission line. The challenge we have is with the lines being down, we don't have any data to inform us what condition the line is in. So we don't want to just turn it on after we've had it off to avoid a fire. So we do need to get out there and inspect those lines. So depending on availability of helicopters, whether we have to have boots on the ground, walking the right of ways and stuff, it could take us a little bit of time to inspect those lines to make sure that they're in good repair. But once we're confident the line is in good repair, we would get the line back on and then go back to monitoring those conditions. So this map here just shows Athabasca County and our transmission system in the county. So those would be the blue lines there would be what we have for transmission lines in the area. And the blue boxes would be our substations. And then on the right is an example of a high-risk fire area we have in the area, which is around the town of Boyle. So that's where we've identified one of the high-risk fire areas here. And then for our PSPS conditions, what we would be looking at is a fire weather index of greater than 60 and a wind conditions greater than 60 kilometers an hour. So those two have to come together. Like we often hit one or the other. They don't come together too often, so it should be hopefully a rare event, but those are the thresholds we're looking at. And then throughout the wildfire season, AltaLink takes a proactive approach with the members of the public as well through a targeted community outreach plan. So we do a lot of advertising in the communities so that people know. So we use Facebook or a lot of social media where we put these placards out so people can see that what we're doing from a wildfire mitigation program, what a PSPS is and what they can do to prepare for that. We also do radio spots, print ads, direct mail as well to make sure we get this information out to the folks as much as possible. And then as a industry, we're working very closely with the Alberta government and Alberta Wildfire through their Powerline Wildfire Mitigation Task Force, which helps us share data with the province as well as the province share with us, as well as getting real-time updates on fire conditions during the wildfire season so we can make those operational decisions. And just last year, ATCO, Fortis, and AltaLink became founding members of the Alberta Utility Wildfire Coalition. So we're working together as a utility group on wildfire mitigation planning. So that includes sharing best practices with each other, sharing lessons learned from other jurisdictions, as well as working to advocate for consistent and reasonable industry standards when it comes to wildfire mitigation planning. So we're working as a utility group in that manner. And then, so just a little bit of contact information. So for me, Colin, I'm the contact for council and administration. If you ever have any questions about Altalink, what we're doing from the transmission line perspective, I can be your contact for that. Brian Kelly, he's our emergency response program manager. So his engagement is largely with the DEMS and works with that emergency planning and coordination efforts there as well. And that's our presentation. So we'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Oh, thank you very much for the presentation. For our new counselors, it's a little bit of information to take in, but I guess one question I have, I'll ask the first one is last year when we had our 831 fire, and the fire was coming down towards Boyle. Were you guys involved? Like, did you know kind of what was going on? Was it being looked at then to possibly shut everything down, or?
Yeah, we were monitoring that fire pretty closely, and we were looking at whether we needed to shut the power off ahead of that fire. So ultimately the decision was made not to, but Brian. If you got
Sure.
anything else.
You know, as Colin kind of mentioned, we have pretty good visibility of what's going on in the province and work with Alberta Wildfire to get that visibility. We've got satellite imagery that comes in our control center, for example, and so we see what's going on. In that particular fire last year, we were in a incident command mode with full incident command team, and you know, watching what was going on. We had people on the ground that were kind of helping us make that determination of the status of it, so that we were working in a way that we were fully aware of it, even though we're sitting in Calgary, we're aware of what's happening in the area at the time. So. And we do that incident command thing, I think it was 22 times last year across the province, you know, up in the Lac La Biche, for example, some of the examples, just for wildfire. And when we have reliability kind of incidents as well.
So you'd have communication with our incident command and because this is where the room was right here.
Yep.
And they did an amazing job. So you guys were sitting in Calgary corresponding with our unit in here.
Yeah, or we would have people on the ground, you know, in the area, either Fortis or ourselves, that would be
okay.
working with them. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, if we don't have any bodies in the area, we do leverage Fortis a lot. So we'll send Fortis out to help be our eyes and ears on the ground until we can get somebody up there, which is helpful. We have a really good working relationship with them. So,
and at that time, just to bring into context, at that time, you were looking at possibly shutting the power off if need be, or?
You know, we were certainly watching that condition, that's for sure. You know, and Colin mentioned what we're afraid of is as that fire progresses closer, you get a lot of debris off that kind of flying up in the air. And what we found is that debris will come in contact with our transmission line ahead of the fire and actually create fires ahead of it when those, you know, the branches or trees or whatever, not trees, but branches make contact with our transmission line. So we actually create a fire ahead of the fire if we don't shut those off, if it's getting too close. So we kind of monitor and kind of use some really good technical data around where we should be shutting that off and when.
Perfect.
Yeah, so we were fully aware kind of where that was progressing,
Watching
on satellite, things like that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor DeHulluk.
Yes, good morning. I get a lot of, not really complaints, but a lot of conversations regarding your distribution costs and administration costs. I'm a little older. I remember the days there was no distribution cost. There was no administration costs. And our hydro was a lot cheaper than it is now. Can you explain what has caused this over the years?
I'll do my best. So as regulated utilities, we do this work on behalf of the ratepayers. So whether it's the transmission costs or distribution costs, right? They're two different buckets. So those costs that you see are the costs that the utilities in the province, whether you're a transmission provider or a distribution provider, incur to maintain our systems and keep the lights on. So it's the way that it works through our regulated system. So I'm not sure how that occurred before. Brian, you have something else there?
And I think the only thing I'd add is we've always had those costs. And I think more what the intent of those bills are, the way they're set up, is to create visibility and transparency of that. I think Alta Link's really proud, a statement we'd make about those transmission costs that we incur is that they've actually been flat for the last 8 years. We actually haven't had an increase in those costs in 8 years. Now, that doesn't mean the rest of the transmission companies in Alberta have not had increased costs as well, but we're certainly aware of that and really, as a company, quite proud of having it flat for the last 8 years.
Yeah, I realize it's probably a pretty hard question to answer, being so, but I like the fact that you did say they've been steady over the last 8 years, and maybe that's a little bit encouraging. Thank you.
Any Councillor Hall?
So you talked about high-risk areas and, the surrounding area. Is there any assistance you need from the county in terms of those spaces like fire smarting, or do you need us for anything, or need the assistance of the county departments to protect the infrastructure?
I think we always need help. You're certainly the experts in the areas, and we also have people that work in the areas as well that are very directly related. Like, for example, we're doing vegetation management in a lot of areas, and the challenges that we may have with vegetation management on our right-of-ways is trying to get what we call danger trees outside of the right-of-way done at the same time. And so we need to work with landowners to say, hey, this tree that is probably most of the problems is sitting on Bob the farmer's area, and we want to be able to go into that area and bring that tree down to a way. And it's always that collaboration with the area CAO or whoever we need to be talking to kind of help with that communication. I think those are the areas that we as a utility are often struggling to get people to understand why we want to go in there and take down a tree, and what the purpose of that is as much of a problem as trying to understand the programs as well. So often we need that collaboration for sure.
Perfect. I've dealt with that before, trying to get access on the land where you're trying to improve stuff, and so I know the ability to be able to do that is tough at times.
Yeah.
Councillor Cheeseman.
Just a question. So you're talking about some big stuff, but in the subdivision that's kind of close to me, we've had like where the lines, a tree fell on, and there was an arc, and then we have a fire in the subdivision. Who, you guys get the call? Like when we get is it Fortis that we call?
Probably in that subdivision, it would be Fortis, because it would be their lines in that area.
So you don't own the lines, Fortis owns the lines? I have a hard time keeping this.
It's two different buckets, I guess,
Okay.
of lines. So our lines are usually the larger lines. So those would be the larger
The big-
transmission lines you would see, like say midfield going cross country type idea. Those would be our lines, because we're moving that power in bulk, but then we would bring it to, say, like the Boyle substation.
Yeah.
And then from there, Fortis would take it out into the community and actually connect it. So if it's embedded within the community, chances are it's likely Fortis's line would be your, yeah.
Well, thank you, because it gets really confusing. It's like.
Yeah.
there's a lot-
Yeah, we're like up in ACO service territory, ACO does both, right? Like
Okay.
ACO has the transmission and distribution side, so it would always go to ACO. But if a fire does ignite on one of our lines or caused by it, either company I know gets contacted to let us know that that's there, because I know the firefighters also need to know whether the line's de-energized so they can safely get in there and do what they need to do from a suppression perspective. So we work very closely, and we generally find out pretty quick that something's going on our lines. So
Thank you.
Perfect. Oh, thank you very much for the presentation and everything. Is everybody done with questions and that? I want to thank you guys very much. One line that comes to mind is the one that comes out of Alpac. That one there is a huge line. That's owned by AltaLink. And
yeah,
it
that one's ours.
ties into south of Grassland area.
Yeah, the big ones. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
That's the huge line. So
Yeah.
yes. So thank you very much for coming in and with your presentation and everything. And if there's anything that we can do to help you out, please reach out also.
Will do. Yeah.
You
Well,
betcha.
thank you again for having us.
You bet.
Really
Thank you very
appreciate it.
much.
Thanks.
I guess we'll just take a break until the other delegation comes in.
That's a better. No pressure.
Agreed. Okay, we'll get moving on this and then Angela will kick her on. So, Kate, so good morning. Thank you for joining us and that. And I'll go through we'll go through and introduce ourselves and then we'll move on to you guys. So again, just use your mics when you're gonna talk. So go ahead, Councillor Calhoun.
Good morning. I'm Councillor Calahoo, Division 9, so I'm north of the river bordering Common Lake area.
Brad Hall, elected in Southwest Athabasca, Division 4.
Good morning, Lucille Chisholm. So I'm in the Boyle, Scott, Caslin area, Division 3.
Good morning, Jack DeHolick, Division 6, which is the Outback Wandering River area.
And good morning, Rob Minns, Division 8, Baptiste Lake Island Lake area. Councillor Stasiak, he had to leave real quick, Division 1. We have 3 councillors away today. Councillor Chamzik, Division 7, Councillor Kapitanic, Division 2, and our Reeve Holland, Division 5. They give their regrets. And also joining us today is Angela Gizmerchuk, the Communications Coordinator, and Miss Leah Blair, Recording Secretary. So go ahead and introduce yourselves and just, like I said, use the mics and we'll go on from there.
Sergeant Paparizzi, Boyle RCMP Commander.
And Sergeant Justin Dolly, the Athabasca Commander, acting right now in the interim.
Corporal Nick Crowther here in Athabasca, Division 5.
None of us are elected.
So go ahead, Sergeant Breezy.
Yeah, I'll take over, just starting out. So we're backing up, just so you know, we're kind of doing a snapshot of January to March. I know it's a little late, but that's our Q4 for the fiscal year ending. What can I say? Wasn't too exciting for us. Inclement weather, obviously it was brutal. So we spent a lot of time in the igloo, so to speak. The priorities we had ending that fiscal were, the one was traffic safety. So I like my guys with the high visibility, being out on the highways, doing the check stop, stuff like that. Obviously, we still had some numbers, but they aren't astronomical. Just, I'm not a big proponent of my guys being out there causing accidents either. So when the weather was terrible and very cold, and we got those big dumps of snow, our biggest thing was just to go out and make sure people are safe. The ones that are hitting the ditch, they're safe. But unless we got called to go and rescue somebody or help the fire department with some traffic control, we stayed the heck off the road too. We just don't want to be that. Obviously, things when you start getting in the way out there, you don't need your PCs hit and members getting hurt as well. So yeah, that's where we're at with that. So we still did some when we were out there though. Still stayed pretty strong on the visibility of police priority, and that's being involved in the schools, community events. So over that quarter, I was able to monitor that there were school visits still happening. We still had some presentations. Did a large fraud presentation out in Buffalo Lake to the senior community as well that during those months, which was a first off for us, and it was well received. So we'll probably get another invite and continue that maybe yearly, hopefully. Nothing of concern. Our relations with the general public and the community as a whole are excellent. All the staff are engaged. I'm happy with what I see. Into March, we noticed there was an influx of property crime, which is not, obviously we do hit property crime, but this was a one-off for us where we were getting a lot of oil field sites, gas well sites getting entered. And then we were also getting, I think one night we had a couple trucks stolen and a few other vehicles attempted to be stolen. So that's a one-off for us where we don't have that large scale of a rash. Within a couple of days, we were able to put 2 and 2 together, and we did a search warrant just outside of town in the county. Again, in March, we recovered the 2 stolen trucks from town. In addition to that, we had a side-by-side, a quad, 2 trailers, and some other property attributed to maybe some other thefts. That crew was known to us, or at least a couple of those individuals. So we don't have a large criminal element in the Boyle area, but we do have some that kind of come through, which we expect. Those are a little difficult for us to solve because we don't really know who they are. And we're relying more on physical evidence, where if we know who's coming out of jail, we start watching them. Community helps us obviously with tips. Things work in our favor, and then we get good results, and that's how we like to see it, as everybody work together. So with those, we had some good charges still riding out in court. There's no trials yet. We're anticipating some jail time for some of these individuals. So since then, I haven't had a file out in the gas well sites, those rural remote areas. It's really dropped off. So we're not going to get them with every file, but I can honestly attribute that there was probably 8 to 10, maybe 12 files that would have been that individual group. And that's how much of an impact they have on these small communities. So stuffed them out quickly, and yeah, what can I say? Well, won't be the last people, but we're getting well trained on our prolific offenders when they do come back to the community. So you have a list of kind of the events I broke down that we went to on the visibility side. Community breakfast, for example, some school visits, family luncheon. We also did a youth criminal justice act at the school. We were actually asked to come in and talk about locker searches and why we do things and some of the policies that the schools might have to make the kids understand. And it's a bit of a prevention thing for us, where they shouldn't be bringing things to school that aren't, whether it's alcohol, drugs, or, you know, imitation. Some kids will show up at school with pellet guns that look like a handgun, and everybody hits panic mode. So we're trying to curb that, where it's like, if you got those from your parents out on the farm, you don't bring them to school because people get excited. So it's one of those that if the police come to the school and we're searching your locker, there might be a good reason for it. And it's a way for them to educate their parents too. Same thing, we did a tobacco use presentation, just a thing too to reduce some of the bad habits that kids can pick up. Detachment tour we did for a grade 6 class, and then like I said, towards the end of February, early March, we did a large scale fraud presentation in the senior community in Buffalo Lake. Detachment wise for my staff, during those 3 months we were good. We were fully staffed. Heading into the new fiscal, I'm 1 member short. He just transferred out. That was Phil Elford. He went back to Halifax. He was fortunate enough to get home, which is good for him. So I have 1 vacancy for a constable. However, I've been fortunate enough that I've been identified as a detachment that needs 2 bilingual positions, and I only have 1 filled. So it was a priority for us to get another member. So I'm pretty happy that we're getting 1 in the end of June. So I'll be full staffed. I haven't been full staffed in I think 3 years at one time. So we'll see. I have one guy slated to go out in the fall, so we'll be good for the summer. Lots of staff. Last year was a different scenario with half my staff and everything was on fire, so we're pretty fortunate this time of year, and the predicament we're gonna be in heading into the busier months. Buffalo Dyke Rodeo this weekend, we're obviously gonna make a large appearance out in the county, doing that. And our biggest thing there is just the visibility to curb any issues, which there shouldn't be because there hasn't been. But that's a large scale community event. That's a really big opportunity for us to be out there mingling with the public. So I'll probably be up here this weekend on uniform as well, putting in some extra time because it's that important. Steno side on my admin staff, full staff. Never a vacancy. Everybody seems to want to work in my office, which is good. They all like showing up, which is something I can't complain about. So heading into probably June, July, I'm gonna have Bruno come in. He's gonna finish off some landscaping for me. I had to do increments with it just because of the cost. So my goal is to finish the one side of the detachment that's still a little bleak with some more trees and shrubbery. And the importance of me, that is not that I just love trees and flowers. It's a very prominent building when you come into Boyle. And my thing is it's gotta be nice because that's one of the first buildings you see coming in on the main drag. And I've had a lot of compliments with the lighting that we've done, upgrades. Unfortunately, the building is aged, but we can still make it look pretty. So that's my plans into the summer. And then big proponent for me is that visibility in the lakes, which we were on the long weekend. Weather was, hampering for a lot of people, but my guys were still out there. And yeah, I just want to get through the summer with curbing some of the ATV issues, the alcohol issues. We've been lucky my whole time here. We haven't had any serious injuries or fatals at any of the lakes. And I'm going to keep that. So biggest proponent for us is if we're out there, we're preventing it just by being out there. So try to beef up some check stops as well, pending on availability, but that's it. If you have any questions, let me know. As far as the numbers, you got some stats. I didn't see anything concerning. Everything seems on par. Like I said, you'll get maybe an influx in March for property crime, but that was that group of individuals. So now we should be flush again, where we shouldn't see dramatic increase.
Okay, perfect. Any questions? Councilor Hall?
So appreciate the hard work you do, and I've always been curious, I guess, but haven't asked until now. When you have a major bust of prolific offenders, why isn't there like a 2-page pullout in the paper with their photos and their profiles so that we can all nail it to the bulletin boards in our yards? And so when they drive in, we know these are folks we should ask to leave.
Well, yeah, we don't generally name individuals that are charged, and just because of privacy issues, we don't want to do that. However, when the charges are actually laid, we do rely on Cole, and Cole has been following this group, so he'll be posting stuff when their next court dates are. And so that becomes public knowledge. So once our charges are laid in the court system, it becomes public knowledge. So the media does have access to that, so they'll put it in. Generally, we'll add specifics to the media, but we'll try to channel that through KDIV media because it's one of those where we want to keep our media lines consistent, where maybe I'll say something in the media that's a little different than somebody else, so we just have to try and keep it consistent. And then ideally, unless it's a risk to the public, i.e. sexual offenses, something that's really concerning, violent offenses, we won't really release the name. And we'll let the name come out through the court system. We'll usually just keep it broad, saying, hey, these are the results. 4 adult individuals were charged, for example. Some were released on condition, some are still in custody, just a snapshot. But I think from my experience, we used to smear their names. However, everybody's got the right to be tried in court. So for us to chastise them in the community, if we don't want to be doing that as well. The public generally talks through Facebook, everything else. They know who's doing it, or they'll know who was in court that day, because 9 times out of 10, somebody that was in court or might have been in court for a different reason, or maybe works at the courthouse. They know who's who, and people talk. So I would say within
I didn't think I had a lot of
hours,
friends who were in court regularly, but maybe they'll keep it secret.
It seems like within 24 hours, the community knows those people. And it's amazing how that information spreads without me helping.
Thank you. I'd like to start out by introducing myself. I had to take an important call here. I'm Ken Stasiuk, Division 1 down in Rochester. Please forget my name in case you chase me anywhere. I got a question for you about the enforcement part. I remember hearing Daniel Smith talking about shoring up some of the penalties in the court system, because that's personally my belief is what's a bigger, huge part of the problems that we have with local crime. But has the provincial government given you any extra support, like so that you don't have to chase these same criminals over and over and over again?
No, there is talks and I guess steps going towards bail reform, but that's obviously above our pay grade. But I know ideally what's going to happen is for that kind of change to come about where they're going to start looking at keeping these offenders in through the bail system, maybe using their criminal records in the bail talk, stuff like that. That will probably be some steps that are coming back, but it's going to take quite a while for that to turn around and come back in. So I think they're working on it, and we'll just have to be patient to see what kind of results come up.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead, Justin. We'll throw you on it.
So we're also talking, Q4, so January to March, for the Athabasca detachment specifically. So these priorities were set by Staff Sergeant Mark Hall while he was here. I got to the detachment around, I think it was March 11th. So this was mostly all set and done and finished by the time I came around. So I brought some backup with me in case you have any specific questions as to what happened during that time. Looking at it though, the priorities were crime reduction, reduced substance abuse, and habitual offender management. Crime reduction and habitual offender management, they pretty much go hand in hand. It's a small group of people committing most of the offenses in the communities. And so the thinking is we target these offenders, usually they're released on conditions of some sort, curfew conditions, no contact, whatever it may be. And if we can really make sure that they're following and abiding by those conditions, we're then preventing some crime. It seems like that worked pretty well. When I compare the stats for January to March specifically, nothing really was trending up. Persons crimes went up slightly, 16%, from 44 to 51 throughout that time. Not hugely concerning to me. It's pretty close. The thing that I noticed though was that the long-term trends from 2022 to 2026 over the years, most of them have pretty much all fallen. So it looks like what the detachment has been doing over the past few years has been working out pretty well for crime reduction as a whole. For example, persons offenses went down from 2022 to 2026. They're about the same, -2%. Property crime was down 25% total, which is pretty significant. Drug crime is down 70%. And municipal offenses down 75, it looks like. MVC is down 20%. So pretty much everything is trending down, which is really nice to see. I think that's attributed to our guys just really being out there, being proactive, being visible, targeting the habitual offenders, and just doing the job, right? So I like that. I don't know if you have any other comments on the stats themselves and what the guys have been doing.
So as Justin said here, our priority has been prolific offenders and making sure they're abiding by their conditions of release. Just an example that if we're going to Rochester for any kind of patrol or service, we'll have a half a dozen names per se that we'll check on why we're down there, and if it's all's good, it's all's good. If someone's not abiding by like a house arrest or a condition like that, we create a file right on the spot that there's a breach. So it's time stamped, dates, all that stuff. You guys are aware we have body cams now. So we go to the front doors of these residents, we knock on the door. It says they need to present themselves at the door of their residents that are approved by probation. And if they don't do that, they're in breach. So boom, files created right away. They're out on warrant and they're back in jail usually within a week. So we have a very good group of guys here now that just love doing that stuff, and the numbers show it, right? These guys are very easy to supervise and look after. That being said, we do have a new influx of members coming in. We have 4 that are being transferred out. We have 3 positions that are being filled already. So we'll be training some new guys here in the next 6 to 8 months. And you know what? The first one came in last week and great first impressions. And I think we hit a jackpot with this guy. I think he's going to be good. So looking forward to having him up and running, and I'm sure you guys will meet him here eventually. But if you have any specific questions, we'd love to answer those.
I was just gonna ask, are them new recruits that are coming in, or?
Yeah, so we have 3 new recruits slated to come to us from Depot this year.
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday, we actually just got notification of the 3rd. So the first one came a couple days ago, Constable Kirtan Bular. He's, as Nick mentioned, really good first impressions. He seems really switched on. I think he's going to fit in really well here and be an asset to the communities. The second recruit, I believe, arrives the middle of next month. So we'll see how that plays out, but I've heard really good things. And then we've got another one slated to arrive, probably start date beginning of August sometime. We're still waiting to hear back who it is, but they're all here to backfill people that are leaving. Just let me find it here. So we've got quite a few people slated to transfer out. Constable Cody Bishop, he's being transferred here pretty quick. I think his last shift is sometime near the end of July, 21st, I want to say, if I remember correctly. Constable Amy Prescott's also going to be on her way out. I'm assuming it'll probably be near the end of the summertime, sometime around when the new recruit gets here, the 3rd one. Constable David McClanagan, he's slated to get his transfer notice end of August. He's got a home to sell, so it'll probably take a little bit of time depending on the market. I anticipate he'll be gone sometime in the fall. And then Constable Brian Jackson, he's also slated to leave at this point. Again, probably not until the fall. So in the meantime, while these transfers are ongoing, we're going to have the incoming recruits filling those spots and getting them trained up. I think we're good to go. I'm not concerned with any of the staffing stuff going on. We're not going to be running super short or anything. We do have one hard vacancy. I think it's been like that for quite some time, but we're making do with what we have. Hopefully we can get it filled sometime soon. We'll see what happens with staffing, but until it does, we're making it work, and the members are happy. We're all productive. And when we need overtime from other detachments, we're not having any trouble getting any. So people like the area, people want to work here, which is nice.
Perfect. Councilor Calhoun.
Good morning. Of course, you'll always hear District 9 speak to you guys. Also, thank you, Officer Dolly, for the conversations we have had. I have a comment and then a little bit of a question. So my first comment, thank you for dealing with those repeat offenders and having your presence more out there. I've heard great feedback from the residents, specifically around Saudi area and Richmond Park area. Your presence is actually a relief, so that's a good thing. Get great feedback from that. However, last week I got 2 or 3 phone calls pertaining to the Pine Grove area. I'm sure you know the place I'm talking about. I don't know if it's because of the warm weather, but things are starting to escalate there again. So with these residents, I'm like, you can call me anytime. We can have a conversation. I'm your voice. Please be calling the RCMP and, reporting these fire hazards, the dealings, pun intended, that you're seeing, the things happening there. Call bylaw. If you're afraid of retaliation, please reach out to Crime Stoppers. I keep encouraging that. What else can I do? Because I don't know if you guys are even getting the amount of calls over this place I am, and you should be getting them, not me.
Yeah, you can instruct your people there to give us a shout. So Pine Grove, we're all familiar with. I think there's stuff on the enforcement end on the county side with some tax evasion stuff going on that's going to shut that property down. In the meantime, our guys have been instructed and they have been taking patrols. Every time we go up to Colin Lake, either on the way there or the way back, we're going through Pine Grove. I was there 2 years ago for the meeting at that lady's house that we had. It's that one place and it's really not that bad. I mean, I don't live there, but I would live there. I wouldn't hesitate to buy a house in that community or that neighborhood. So I feel that it is safe, and I would put my family in that situation to live there. We've been dealing with them a little bit more lately, but it's more into just keeping our thumb down on it more than anything explosive, I guess you would say. But I think within the next year or so, that'll be a means to an end to that property.
Thank you for that. So once again, your presence being appreciated. I agree. It's a beautiful estate. I would live there as well. I'm just like more afraid too of people becoming frustrated and then, making the wrong decisions and someone getting hurt unneededly. So I'll
Yeah.
just keep encouraging them to reach out to you guys.
For sure. I was actually frustrated there because we were making the efforts to be there, and someone last summer or last fall was like, "Why are you guys here so much?" I was like, "Well, you asked us to be, is why we're here." So I don't know if you guys need to have another meeting or want to have another meeting again, just to get everyone back on the same page. But like, we're there because you guys have requested us to be there, and we have patrol log books that we keep on every time we go to Pine Grove and Calling Lake and any other hot area. Like we have that, so we're able to report on our presence in the area. And I said, like, we made an effort there last 2 years to be there lots. And I think you guys have noticed that. But just make sure when you guys are talking, it's like, hey, we've asked them, the RCMP, to be here. And, like, whether there was a guy going door to door selling or doing water treatment systems or whatever, we had a call for that. So we're there talking to that person. If someone's walking up the highway with a bicycle, well, we're talking to that person, and so forth. Like, some of the kids there ride their dirt bikes up and down the road. We've talked to them, educated them. Like, we're there quite a bit. So just make sure everyone's on the same page. We're not there to pester anyone by any means, but we're there to prevent crime. And I think we've been doing a good job on doing that.
Perfect. Thank you. And I'll relay that message as well next time they reach out to me or I reach out to them. Thank you.
Counselor Stasiak?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I noticed on page 39, you talk about offensive weapons. What really is that? And is it connected at all to, restricted or illegal guns that the government is talking about taking them away and stuff like that? Or how are we dealing with that yet?
Sorry, where are you looking on that?
I've got on page 39, it's your statistics sheet. I don't know if you have the same.
It's the first heading under total property.
Yeah, total property, that's correct.
Okay.
It says offensive weapons. What is that? Is that guns, knives,
I could answer
sticks?
that as well. Offensive weapon, so, no, it wouldn't be like your prohibitions. So if you're possessing a firearm or you're prohib, that's a different charge. But the other weapons are, you can have somebody in possession of just a knife.
Oh, I see.
So the knife becomes a weapon if they're perceived to be using it as a weapon. And somebody, brass knuckles, those are prohibited, but plastic knuckles aren't illegal. So they'll look like brass knuckles, but they're made out of plastic. Because they're not metal, they're not illegal, but they're still regarded as a weapon. And the reason we look at stuff like that, bear spray would be another example.
Okay.
Where if you're backpacking, maybe in the Collington area on the trails, you might have bear spray. Fits the circumstance, but you're driving a car and you got a load of dope. Doesn't fit the circumstance, we'll charge you for a possession of a weapon because that bear spray is potentially going to be used as a weapon.
Okay.
So those are the kinds of things. It's more broad, but I've had files where you threw a shoe at somebody, it's a weapon. And somebody was actually using it as a weapon. So, does that make sense? Okay.
Perfect. Okay, I guess I just want to thank, I'll just hang on here. Go ahead.
Sorry, if I may, just real quick, I just wanted to touch on a couple other things that aren't statistics related and kind of moving forward here, just for awareness is all. You'll probably start noticing over, again, probably the fall, winter, there's going to be quite a few changes to like our uniform and whatnot. I know that we're slated to start getting new police cars. They're changing them to black and whites instead of the all white vehicle. So if you see them around, that's coming down the pipe at some point. Our uniform shirts, they're changing them to navy blue instead of the gray.
Nice.
I think we're starting to, that's supposed to roll out in the fall, I believe, in K Division here. So you'll start seeing a new look as well. Our firearm is getting switched out here. They're going to start that in the fall, all the way up into the new year. And so it's going to be a slow transition as things, we get training and whatnot, they'll get replaced. So a lot of new equipment coming. It's going to be much better for us. And you guys will definitely notice the changes too. So.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. That sounds good. Navy blue, I think fits the bill. The new gun, yeah, can't wait to see it.
It's yeah, it's a 45 cal, so it'll be a lot larger,
Yeah,
a little more fancy tools on it for us.
laser pointer.
I'm gonna go from the beachcomber look to more of a tactical look, so it's good.
Beachcomber look. You know, I want to thank you very much too for, I'm a big advocate. I'm a huge advocate on RCMP in the school system and going and seeing the kids and interacting with the kids is huge. I watched my kids grow up with that happening and it just, it just moves, it just gets the respect, right? You know, and that's all you're trying to do is just, you guys are human. You're no different than anybody else. So that's perfect.
So is that funding for a full-time school resource officer? I'm just looking
Yeah,
for clarity on
well-
that.
Well, you know what? You can always ask, eh?
Yeah, we have members assigned to every school and, you know, obviously a position for a school resource officer would be excellent, but that's not my pay grade.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. I've seen that. I've seen it come in and grow and it's huge. So, and thank you very much, Justin, for your time spent in here in Athabasca. It's been great to meet you and that, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here. I've enjoyed it. This was actually my first post back in the day, so it's kind of full circle. It's cool to be back. I don't know how much longer I'll be here. I know that they've selected a new like the candidate for the position full time. That's got to go through the promotions process, and there'll be a home sale and whatnot as well. I'm also in that process myself, transferring somewhere else. So I think it's going to end up being whichever one of us sells first. I'll leave and he'll come and replace me. It'll either be him here full time permanently or doing what I'm doing now, where he's gone on the weekends here during the week. Either way, the detachment won't be left in the lurch. Someone will be here covering it off. Greg, I know him personally. He's a really good guy. You're going to be in good hands. I think he'll be good for the community. So I don't foresee any issues there. And you were in the interview, so you would have met him a little bit, and hopefully you had the same first impression. So
Very well spoken, self-assured, speaks with authority and kindness at the same time. Everything you want in our CMP officer. I think that we'll be very happy with them.
Perfect. That's great news. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming in and keep up the good work, I guess. You bet. Thanks a lot. We'll take another 4-minute break. I guess we'll. Awesome delegations just came in, so we're done with them. So now go on to the. It's the counselors updates. Let's, who wants to go first? Sure, give her.
Okay, so my council update, Northern Lakes College had their last board meeting before the summer break, but great news, they're moving their campus. They finally get their own campus. It'll be downtown Athabasca up from the post office street. AU's been a great host for them, but it'll be great because they'll be more visible, and their students will have more room with the possibility to grow, you know, some other educational things and stuff because there's a vacant lot next to them, like maybe for some mobile classrooms or whatever. So that's really great news for them, and for our community as well. Riverside cleanup went great. The weather cooperated. It didn't start like raining till we left. So many people showed up this year, so it's awesome. So when you come to the jet boat rally or rodeo, if you're coming, it's like awesome. Thank you to everyone who came out to stack wood, rake, clean up garbage, paint, get the boat launch cleaned off, all that stuff. It was a really great turnout. June 6th, and seeing that will be the annual Athabasca Jet Boat Rally. The rally will begin in town at the riverfront. You'll usually see all the jet boats and the people pulling up around 10 a.m. So if you want to come like check out the boats and stuff. The next day, June 7th, is the Jet Boat Rodeo held at Riverside Recreational Park. Down at the launch there. That's usually a really fun thing to see. They go through a whole kind of obstacle course and have to shoot balloons and go around hoops and stuff. It's really fun. We had our FCSS meeting. You can see the board notes, I'm sure, will be coming in the next council agenda. Lastly, I just wanted to give a big shout out to Public Works and all the county admin for answering all the emails that you've been getting from us lately in such a timely fashion. I know it takes time out of your very busy day, but it's so important for us as counselors to be able to get those answers out there to our residents quickly. I know that they really appreciate it too. Also on that note, thanks for getting the water stations up and running so quickly as vandalism happens. I was shocked, like when I sent in my complaint, the next day it was fixed. So that was great. And also being on top of the pothole repairs, I know that resident, when I sent that in and I was able to get back to him right away, that, you know, these guys are already on it. So once again, just a big shout out to you guys for just being quick and on the ball, not only with communicating with us, but helping us communicate to our repairs. Thank you.
Awesome. The only question I got, so Northern Lakes College is moving into a different campus.
Yeah, so right now they're hosted inside AU.
Yeah.
Right, so they'll be, so by next semester, so when they open up for the next semester, they will be, I'm not exactly sure where it is. I know it's up from the post office somewhere is what I was told. So yeah, so they'll have their own building.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, like I said, AU's been a great host and stuff, but it'll be nice for them to have their own space, right? So.
Yeah, just to add to that, because that showed up at our Donahue Library Board meeting. They are moving from there to, they didn't specify where, they just said downtown at the time.
Okay.
I'd like to do mine then if I can. Yeah, it's been kind of busy for me in the farming world, so I've been a little bit negligent, but I made my notes here and I would like to do the reports on Blue Heron. Relatively short meetings. They had, they discussed the financials. They're still meeting with the auditors to get the final on that. The treasurer is getting up in age and he decided he'd like to step down and have somebody else take over. And Dan found, I think he's a banker as well as a preacher in the community. And he's quite interested in joining the board and becoming our treasurer over there. So we're inviting him to the June meeting for his interview. They also had a lawnmower that was stolen, as typical of local communities. So they're trying to, rather than buying a new lawnmower, they want to see if they can sub out the mowing to some private entity. The other one is the Donahue Library meeting. I was new there, first time, just I took over from Jack in that capacity. Lots of introductions there, never met any of those people before. Well, Colleen I did. But anyway, yeah, the archives department has transferred all their data onto Microfiche and that's all completed. And as Councillor Callahoo had said, the Northern Lakes College is going to be moving downtown. They're going to also shore up some of their teaching program for adult learning and hopefully get some more teachers in the area. I guess there's quite a shortage of them. Also discussion there about security cameras within their building. I didn't realize it, but there was a bit of, I would say, bullying or similar within for the employees. And but they interviewed some of the employees and they kind of were not comfortable with having cameras there. And so we're going to find out tonight, I guess, what the status of that is. We also talked a little bit about their new building. They want to start the preliminary work on a new library for Athabasca, finding a location and so on. They are offering training videos for the staff, online training. And there's also on June 19th, there's a retirement party for the assistant librarian who has been there 28 years. They never said who it was. They just mentioned librarian. There was a bit of discussion about Bill 28 in the explicit book category, which surprised me quite a bit that they were not really excited about restrictions that the provincial government is putting forward. They're going to try and move it to you have to be 15 years old in order to get a library card. You have to have parental supervision or support from your parent in order to take some of these books off the shelves. And I know you look puzzled there, but what it came down to is that they had mentioned that some of these people are not aware of their anatomy, so to speak, and so they should have access to that information. And some of us, mostly me, decided that resource books are one thing, explicit pictures is something totally different. So there's a bit of, difference in diversity there. But anyway, Colleen, the chairman, she sent a letter to the provincial government expressing her concern about government overreach. And so we'll find out again tonight as to how that came to be. As Councillor Callahoo had mentioned, the FCSS, Tennille is forwarding a more detailed package to council for what we were providing before was kind of a rough outside sketch, and she's going to have more detail. So she will be providing that on our behalf so that it's more information for council. Community Futures, again, that was my first meeting with them. Lots of introductions there. They discussed a bit about moving the interest from their loan money, the CFLIP, to be used also into operations for wages, utilities, and general operations. Their annual meeting, their general meeting is slated for June 17th. And other than that, I'm in the field now, so if you talk to me, you won't get a reply till the next morning. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Any questions for Ken? None? May as well finish this side. Councillor Hall.
So big stuff that comes to mind, arms boards, those will come in on some written reports, but the high level work is really, the board is still working through an analysis of rates and fees and the alignment on that stuff with the strategic direction of the society. And then, at some future time, I expect council will receive some updates on the boiler issues that would need to happen in closed session. Greater North Foundation is also, I think we need to recognize that housing in general is a core enabler of community development and economic development in communities. And I think, a lot about what we do and how our role as council is to impact economic development in our region. So Greater North is working through a process to consider and really define the strategic direction, the growth needs in each of the regions we serve, which are not, identical, and also what the foundation's role might be in helping to solve the housing need in the community and within our lane, but recognizing that, when we resolve housing kind of has a cascading impact when someone moves into a lodge or some kind of care that frees up other housing in the community. And so there is that ripple Water Commission, council's pretty aware of the big stuff there. There's discussions around the Boyle and Grassland buildings and equipment and ownership and operations. And so I think we're all fairly well briefed on that. The water line is, again, another major topic of discussion there, and I think council's well briefed on that. And then the other work that's happening there is some policy work on an employee handbook and the cascading impact of that on the updating and development of a few other just operational policies. So it's all, some good governance processes happening there. And on the operations side, the plant and the crew do fantastic work and have done really well in the, I don't really know how to express really well in the annual reporting and the testing, the auditing that occurs over the quality of the water. So the quality of the water coming out of our plant is exceptional and consistently exceptional. The other thing that's worth a brief mention, because I'll intend to put in a written report, but is the EDA conference, the Economic Developers Association. And this is a interesting and useful learning opportunity. And I think it would be something that would benefit more of council to really have that exposure and hear some of the presentations. And but on that, I think it's easier to coalesce the stuff into a written report. I'll have that in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Councillor Hall? Seeing none. Councillor DeHollick.
Yeah. Pretty quiet month, just monitoring the roads and just very happy. And I'd like to thank Public Works for the work they've been doing on the roads. Very impressive. I attended the Grassland Ag Society meeting, Wandering River Ag Society. I'd like to point out how successful the cornball is in Brainette. Like they draw like 50, 60, 40 people, consistently. So they're doing a good job. Just wanted to comment that. I attended the Water North Coalition meeting in Gissard last week. What stood out? Well, actually, on my way there, I stopped at Drift Pile. They were burning the ditches and around town, and it was a controlled burn, and it looked really good. They're sure going to protect their town by doing that, or their village. The Water North Coalition, just how important it is to do readings on your water. There's I think Slave Lake got a fine for some improper readings, and there's several other towns. Other than that, I think that's probably it.
Okay, that was your first Water North Coalition.
Yes,
meeting.
it was my first. It was good. I was impressed.
Yeah, that is a good group.
Oh, yeah. Rob, I don't know why somebody from the Water Commission isn't really there. It would have been.
They're part and parcel. I did talk to the commission manager about it, and he knows about it and that, and he was going to try to zoom in on it. So I don't know if he did or not, but he has been part and parcel of it, and they're a great advocate to promote for more operators, because Northern Alberta gets a rough deal on the operator situation because it's hard to find them, right? So it's they're and to meet up with the government, that's a good place to.
It was a very good experience.
Right on. Well, thank you for that. Councillor Cheeson.
Okay, so Boyle Public Library, we just had our AGM, so we have a new board. And we have some of the same concerns that the other libraries have in the area with what's needing to come off the shelves and the questions. So that was an issue. It was interesting. We have a small group there, but it's very active, and it's nice to see the library is very active in the community. So it's good. It's something that's really needed. So it's nice to see. I also met with the Caslin Recreation. I don't know if it's board, but so they have some wish lists and I'm not sure where to go. So we chatted about that. The lady that I was chatting with talked about that the county used to have her county recreation board that I know nothing about. She's been an active member of it, so I don't know who to go to find out what this is all about or what the information was, but she said there was a lot of things that this board would do for the docks and all this stuff. So anyways, I'd like to kind of figure out what was going on and where these items were that she said surplus and we could use for things when we needed. And I'm talking because I don't really know what she was talking about, but it was interesting. Also, North Buck Lake with the public beach. They don't really know who is responsible for that beach. So like there's no garbage bins, there's like no monitoring of it. It's kind of like a really filthy. There's the boat docks that people just shove in there. And so there was that question. So I guess that's an email that I'll forward and ask who's responsible for that because they don't seem to know who's responsible for it either. So, but it was really good. Like I said, they got some wish lists. So it was good to talk to them and learn about things of the past as well. I attended the ARM meeting the other day, and I was new to that because I'm the alternative. And I have to say it was a really good meeting, and I was really glad to actually be a part of it and kind of understand what was going on. So thank you to the two across that helped me feel comfortable, but it was really good. So learned a lot. It was interesting with the rates and those things and the operations because it was really good information. So I was really glad I was able to attend. May 13th, the village had hosted the Boyle Emergency Service Lunch, so it was well attended. And we haven't met for the Regional Health Authority because our meetings is coming Monday, so I don't really have an update on that, other than we are doing lots and trying to get out there for the community. I believe that's about all I've got. Oh, other than I have been really busy with the Buffalo Lake Métis with the rodeo. So I am an active member out there with that committee. And so we've been meeting, of course, weekly because it is a pro rodeo. So there's lots going on. And so the rodeo is starting. So big event. So I hope to see some of you out there.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Any questions for Councillor Cheeseman? Seeing none. Mine will be really brief. Thank you, Councillor Hall, for talking about the Water Commission. One thing, the Kubi Solar Project is been approved and everything. They're going through a little bit of a site analysis and that now. So that could be a bit of a hindrance. There's a pipeline there that didn't realize it was there. So could be a difficult part, but they'll move forward with that. What else? I just want to thank Councillor Stasiak for looking after being the chairperson for the meeting last time. I'm sorry I couldn't be here. And thank you very much. Heard it was a great meeting, so awesome. Other than that, it's nice to see the great weather out and things moving forward. Public Works, great job. With the graders on the road, it really helps out. Puts people at ease a bit. I know the weather has been, especially in the East Country, the weather has been Mother Nature has not been kind. So it's been well noticed in that. So great work by all. And I think other than that, that's administration for taking all the phone calls. That's been probably a real hit too. So yes. So thank you very much, everybody. And I guess we will move on to that'll be 7.1. Personal cell phone device, draft policy, I think. It's page 68 of the agenda. So on this personal cell phone device, I will hand that over to Ms. Hambley to have a discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I think we all have our own personal cell phone, and as do all of our staff. And even with our seasonal staff, they come on board, they all have their own personal cell phones. And we rely on them using their phones when we communicate with them, and also with our operators out in the field. We do rely on making sure that they're safe, or also giving them instructions or direction, and having them use their own personal cell phones. So the premise for this draft policy is to reimburse staff for using their personal phones, and they have to meet certain criteria, whether they're seasonal or not, and the types of roles, like with the team leads, typically, they're the ones who are taking instructions and then following up with their staff that are typically right with them. Also, our operators, our greater operators are all relying on their personal phones. We had issues with county issued phones for our greater operators a few years ago. They weren't compatible. So again, we're relying on them using their own personal cell phones, and also if there's any safety issues as well. So we're also looking at getting the Starlink kits for our machines as well. So this policy is to provide some equity to staff, the ones that rely on it, on using their personal phones. And also, I didn't add this in the report, and I apologize in advance. I only was able to talk to our service provider this morning. I know that we have 49 county issued phones. Only 10 of them are under contract. The rest of them, the contracts have expired. So some staff may not want to carry around 2 phones. They may choose to use their own personal phone and get a stipend for the use of that phone. And from a very selfish point of view, since IT is under me, a lot of our issues are cell phone related. So we don't have the expertise to do that. We typically call our service provider and try to link staff to our service provider to deal with some of these issues. So if staff choose to use their own personal phone, it's their issue, it's not ours. They have to deal with their own service provider. So it kind of takes that responsibility off our shoulders. So before you use the draft policy, we're open to any suggestions. And I also want to point out that we aligned the reimbursement to align with council's cell phone reimbursement monthly benefit.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that. Any questions regarding, okay, Councillor Kalu.
I think that the financial ask is actually very reasonable, especially if they only have one phone, and it's sort of opening up some staff capacity for you, like with just having the one phone. Also, above number 4 there, where it says administration is considering purchasing Starlink kits. Yeah, if you could come back with us on a possible cost for that. I can only speak to my area because I know there's places where like radios won't even work, specifically the Deep Creek area where you're going through that canyon. That can be dangerous on a good day, like, especially for your staff and whatever. And yeah, I think that you should look into that as well.
Okay, perfect. Any, Councillor Cheeson?
Just a question, does our equipment have radios that they can talk to each other? And does the county have their own radio channel like other companies? Just a question.
Yeah, we have some so-called radio communications that don't function very well. They work if you're in close proximity, but as the infrastructure has aged, it hasn't been modernized, and so it does not work very well. And there are numerous locations throughout the municipality where they don't work at all.
Must be really outdated.
sorry, just to Counselor Chissen, even with newer radios, you know, from another thing I do, when you're in the canyon or even down at Riverside Recreational Park at the bottom, they will not work. We've tried to test them several times. So there are areas where Starlink will work, but there are like radios just when you're down into the below sea level, I guess they just won't.
Radios are expensive, and having your own radio channel and frequency, that is expensive too. Just knowing when I worked in the oil field, I mean, they worked. We could talk to all of the operators in different areas. So, but when we're updating, to have their own personal phones, I actually think it's probably going to be cheaper for us in the long run. And the Starlinks, I know the company that I used to work for, I mean, that's what they got in their graders in bad areas like Buffalo Lake where we have no cell phone service, and the Starlinks work very well. So it is, I would strongly recommend that as well. So
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, I also want to add that I think we're in the process of already ordering the Starlink. We did look into getting a grant. We were not successful, but we did find money in the budget just because it's such a safety concern. And now with our new safety officer, she's on top of it. So I believe we've already ordered them.
Councillor Hall, did you have a question or?
Just a couple, but I mean, I think I didn't really understand when you said the county grader, the phones we got for the graders weren't compatible, or they just didn't work because of coverage. Because I don't know what they would need to be compatible with.
Yeah, Councillor Hall and through the chair, I'm not 100% sure. I just know in the past, the phones were distributed, but then they were pulled back. So I had a pile of phones. In fact, my phone says grader on the back. I have my iPhone that was issued by the county. That's just a phone that probably just didn't work out there. Maybe they weren't already dated. I'm not sure. But so staff had to revert to using their personal phones for communication.
So I certainly from a work alone policy standpoint, finding something, whether it's Starlink and Wi-Fi communications or whatever you guys decide, but it's important to me to support that. The other concern is both the security of the phone and the ownership of the data, and making sure that we've protected data from FOIP. And even if someone is using their own phone, are we considering providing them county-based numbers? Because I think having a county phone number and having a county device are not the same, and most devices now can handle two separate phone numbers.
The really good question, Councillor Hall, and through the chair. I actually just got off the phone with our service provider, and we're also exploring the eSIM cards where they can have a phone number from the county into their phone and in their personal phone, and then they can just turn it off at the end of the day. So there's a little bit of an additional cost, but I did tell them that I just need to dive a little bit deeper into that for any staff that want to use their personal phone but don't want to have their phone number distributed in that way. So it just depends on the type of position, and yeah.
And
the
that
approval
partially
process.
relates to my concern that a personal number is a personal number, and people should be able to take calls at any time of day. But if on an outward basis, our the customers or residents or whoever we want to refer to as dealing with those numbers, I don't support having a personal number also substitute as a number that they can be reached, employees can be reached for work purposes, because it creates a situation where folks who really don't understand boundaries will phone employees on a Friday or a Saturday or a Sunday and ask questions about, and I think, the people that work here, when they're not working, they deserve the time off that's theirs, and they should not be getting, except for the on-call route but your planning and development people don't need phone calls on Sunday afternoon. Or others, right? Greaterman, women.
Yeah. Okay. So if I have one question is to go with Starlink and all this other stuff, what are we going to do with the radio system? Because the radio system is still costing us money, right? So are we going to look at getting rid of the radio system, or are we going to keep the radio system? Because I've fought with this before, is if we're gonna keep a system, we need to either enhance it, upgrade it, or do something with it, or get rid of it, one or the other. So That's my kind of question is what are we going to do with the radio system if we go with Starlink?
Yeah, you know what, that's something that we're gonna have to assess moving forward. I know that, when the crews are in close proximity to each other, they're using them. We'll see kind of how it evolves. Whether, I don't really see us investing a bunch of money into the system. But, for now, I don't have a true roadmap for you how that's gonna play out, but we're gonna have to assess it moving forward. And if there's, a different option for them to communicate when they're in close proximity, other than the phone, right? Like I say, it's in some cases it still works well, but for distance and stuff, it's not working well at all. So
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'll volunteer that we're going to need the radio system too for quite some time.
Yeah.
We're not switching every unit over to Starlink. We're not going to. We're going to start with the graders. Because those are the people that even when it's -30 out, they're out there working alone. A lot of times the people in pickups, the likelihood of breakdown is less. They're usually working with someone, so there's maybe less working alone situations. The graders, they're always working alone. So we're going to start with that, but I don't think we're going to abandon the radios, the system whatsoever. Now we have to look at upgrading it, absolutely, but right now we just have to address the working alone situation.
Oh, okay, no, that sets a different picture because not every
Yeah.
grader is gonna get Starlink, right? Or is every grader? gonna
Not
get-
every grader.
Okay.
We had graders broke down this year, and I don't want to tell too much, in -30, and they couldn't communicate.
Yeah,
So they had to walk to where they could phone, and that's not appropriate for us as an employer to have that happen.
yeah, because I know the radio system works very well, plus on an emergency system also. Is that everybody knows kind of what's going on that has that channel and all that stuff. So that's why I was just wondering, are we gonna get rid of it? Are we gonna enhance it? Or are we gonna, that way we have a better idea? No, thank you very much. Councillor Stacey first.
Thank you to the chair. Just a quick question. Can you explain what a Starlink kit is? Is it just a globe or what is it?
it's basically a mini dish that is either mounted permanently or magnetic. Provides a satellite Wi-Fi signal, so your cell phone connects to it, and you'll have cell service.
Right. I kind of know, I'm familiar with what it is, a little square dish on top of the cab of a vehicle. But so when we talk about the employees, they will be connected to Starlink, but they won't be each having a little satellite dish, would they?
Yeah, each unit would.
Okay, so we're talking employees, that's outside through public works, not necessarily within the building employees.
No, Mr. Chairman, we're really only talking about the graders to start with.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
I'm not gonna walk around in the office with a satellite dish.
That was just.
We're talking about the graders for Starlink, and that
yes.
actually wasn't on the agenda today. Today was just a policy about, can we start compensating the staff that already use their personal cell phones for their data and voice that they're already doing for free. We can talk about the other thing. We'll bring back a discussion item if council wants to talk about that till you're blue in the face, and we'll bring all the details. But for Starlink, we're talking about the graders only.
Okay, Councillor Hall.
It was more just to ask if there is actually a work alone check-in mechanism that's there, but it probably isn't appropriate under this agenda item, so.
Yes, we have protocol and it's in our health safety policy, and we're probably not meeting it. And we can't without communication.
Thank you. And I'm gonna admit, I haven't read the health and safety policy because it doesn't seem to apply to what I do. On the, so then on the question of compensation, I'd be willing to move the motion to bring the policy back to council for formal approval. And, with the noting of the concerns that I'd rather see separate numbers and eSIMs and whatever, but in terms of paying people to use their devices, that's fine. But happy to move that.
That sounds good. Counselor Callahan, did you have something to?
I was basically just going to say what Councillor Hall just did.
Yep,
Just in my words.
and I was going to jump in there too and say, does anybody have any objections to moving this to council? So we have a motion on the floor from Councillor Hall to send this to county council to be approved. But seeing no more discussion, all in agreement, all approved. Motion carried, 6-0. And lunch is here, so before we start on the next
Marathon.
next policy, maybe we'll break for lunch. We'll reconvene at 12:15 if that's okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, good afternoon. So we're gonna move on here and we'll hit the next policy, what is it? 7.2, policy 3201. Residential driveway snow plowing. This should be so on that note, yes, we'll get a little bit of background from Director Morton regarding the.
So as part of our strategic planning sessions, there was some service levels that were identified as priorities. And so this month, the plowing of private driveways was the policy and service level that we had committed to bringing it. I guess, from the administrative perspective, this policy was implemented a couple of years ago, I believe, prior to my arrival here. There are some, I guess, areas that create some challenges from an administrative perspective. And I believe from the public perspective, it's pretty obvious that we're not meeting the expectation that comes with the policy. And so, when you have an annual fee that people prepay, there's a expectation, I guess, that comes with that we're gonna be there when they feel they need us to be there. And for us, our priorities are the public roads. So especially this year with the amount of snowfall that we've seen, from just before Christmas to 3 weeks ago, it was just event after event, right? So, you were hardly catching up on the roads, let alone driveways, which I think created some frustration in the public, as well as with staff who ultimately want to do a good job and are unable to meet that expectation as well. So we've kind of looked at a number of other municipalities and programs that they offer. The vast majority still use a flag system. I'm not a big fan of flag system. You got to get in and out of the grader, your operators in and out, right? People can pre-purchase flags, and then you're sometimes every year was a different color, and 5 years later somebody puts a flag out. Well, they might have paid $25 for the flag, and now we're doing it 5 years later where they would be a totally different cost. But those are all there's challenges to almost every system. We're not going to get a system that I guess is perfect. Some of the folks that we looked at, they don't use graders at all anymore. They use farm tractors, and in some cases they use contractors with farm tractors to do it. Anyway, ultimately council will decide what is going to fit for us and our community. But we would like to discuss with council some of our concerns, and maybe get some things from you that you feel should be changed in the policy to create a service level that you're happy with.
Okay, this should be a good discussion. So we'll start out with Councillor DeHollock.
Yeah, do you have a approximate cost per driveway? Have you got it broken down?
Okay, so that's one of the concerns that we have from an administration perspective, is that there is no maximum length of driveway that is stipulated in the service level where we will say no. So, you know, if, well, we have, for one example, we have one that is a full mile long. So, and currently has a driveway plowing agreement. Well, $200 for a year to plow that mile-long driveway is much different than somebody who has 100-foot driveway or 200-foot driveway. So the cost for everyone is a little different. You know, I guess from our perspective, one of the things we would probably recommend in this is, you know, maybe go into a fee for service where, you know what, you want us to come in and blade the driveway, you call us or submit. Do you want me to pause?
No, go ahead.
Submit a request for the driveway plowing, and then we bill you based on 15-minute increments or something, right? So
Yeah.
then it wouldn't matter how long it is. If it's a mile long and it takes us an hour and a half, it's an hour and a half. We're not on the county road, but we're going to bill you accordingly. And if you don't like the rate, then, you know, there's always local entrepreneurs that have businesses that you could explore.
So how about contracting it? Have you got any idea if we can save a buck that way, or you know, then the contractor can deal with collecting the money or charging or whatever. You know, if we had a list of contractors available, you know, that's all the people would need. You know, instead of paying the $200 or whatever, well, here's a list. You make a deal with this guy.
That's quite honestly, that's simple for us to do, to put a list of contractors on our website. You know, we would just contact local contractors who would be open to doing that type of thing. But I'm not sure that that covers off everything that council has asked for in the past, such as you know, seniors rates and stuff of that nature.
Because often you get asked, you get told, well, I could have done that. I can do your driveway. I can do your driveway. Well, and often I do it, you know, but
well, that's why we're here.
yeah, I'd like to hear what.
Councillor Calhoun.
So yeah, over the winter, I actually put a little thought into this because I was getting phone calls as well. I mean, I get it's frustrating for both admin and the residents, not only because the fairness of length, it is also a gamble with people's money the way it's set up with right now. For example, they pay their $200 next year and we might not see any snow, right? So they don't need grading. Or like this year, you get dumps and dumps of snow and our main roads are the priority and they've still gambled their money away in essence, not getting the level of service they've expected, I guess. I guess out of all of this, I like the first option the best, maybe with some work. And sort of like Councillor DeHollick said, like, for example, if you phone Home Hardware and you need a wet inspection, they give you a list of other businesses that can supply that for you. So promoting other businesses that can be there, because, you know, trying to explain to people our roads are a priority, but as soon as there's that dump of snow, they want you there because they paid. So yeah, how do we get to that level of service? And maybe that is promoting some of our local businesses. I do know that there's a few new ones in town that are also insured for doing roofs and stuff as well. So promoting stuff like that for our residents. And I don't know for our seniors, if we were to go that route, if there's like a Snow Angels program or something that could maybe even offset that cost. I don't know what's out there for that, but maybe just something to explore senior wise as well.
Councillor Cheeseman.
Well, I think using a grader is the most expensive way to clear a driveway. So I am not for us using our graders to be doing this. The tractors, I mean, we do have tractors and then you don't need a grader operator to do it or a grader? Like, let's face it, when we're out there doing road construction, your grader is the most expensive piece of equipment out there that we're paying for. And that's what we're doing in this county. We're clearing driveways with the most expensive piece of equipment with our highest quality supposed to be operators. And that's a big cost. Like, throw our tractors out there with the snow plows in front of it, and you need a laborer who's half your rate. So that would save us money. And I also do think there's a lot of counties out there that don't charge their seniors. And I'm talking about neighboring, Lac La Biche has a senior programs, County of St. Paul, and the ones that you said here too. And I do think as we do need to offer something for our seniors out there. And I like the reduced fee for the seniors or no fee at all. But again, I'll harp on it a million times. A grader is the most expensive piece of equipment we can have out there to do it. And it's hard. If you got a smaller driveway, like your grader, like that's hard to get in and out of there. And our graders aren't little itty bitty things. So like, that's tough. It takes more time. So let's be smart about this.
Do you want to comment back?
Yeah,
Okay.
just a comment on, we do have tractors. We could hire, seasonal staff to operate those tractors and purchase plows. We don't have plows for our tractors. The bigger concern is, where do we house them, right? You're not gonna run them all out of our yard. So you would need to probably have 4 locations at least throughout the municipality that you would operate out of. So, I mean, there's some challenges with it, but they're all doable. And, but there would be some capital investment required to purchase plows and then again, some seasonal staff to operate. So just providing back some information. Well, you'd be increasing your level of service for the graders on the public roads because they would have more time to stay on the road.
Okay. Councillor Hall.
I mean, maybe to provide just a touch of background, because Councillor Minns and I are the only ones here when this current structure came in. And the problem that we were trying to solve, I think, and Rob, you jump in, but it was really around addressing safety of the operators with the flags, because they're in and out of their machines, and we worried about guys slipping and the whole issue with that. We worried also about potential safety for residents, where someone would fall into a snowbank or stumble, and there was a near miss in one case where somebody did went out to plant their flag and fell and was probably at the end of their driveway the longer than anyone would like. Before they were helped by somebody to upright themselves, and so there was a plan to try to make it simpler, and I think part of it, and at least for me, and I can't speak for my colleague, but was around creating equity among residents. A resident is a residence, and we should provide equitable types of service across residents. So that was part of the reason to support that, and so that's kind of the history. Now, I think it's absolutely clear that, well-intentioned, the design of the program didn't function the way we maybe thought or hoped it would at the time. And from my perspective, at least, the moment when people most need the service is the one moment where we're most likely to be unable to provide it. And so I think we have to think that out. And so then when I was reading this and looking at it, I stepped back a little bit, I think, from where some of the comments I've heard. And that's, first of all, is this a need to have or a nice to have? And, we've talked about our services. There's the stuff we must do. There's the stuff we probably should do. And there's the fluff that is just a bonus if we do. And so this is absolutely more on the nice to have versus the need to have. It's not a need. It's a nice. We're not required to do that. And so then I get back to even that question about is clearing Jack's driveway or anybody's driveway really the county's responsibility? And I think we should talk about that before we start designing the program, because when I look at it, you have to think, when you live in the country, what level of responsibility do you have to take for where you choose to live? You know, I think some people pick to live on a flat place and so they can drive a two-wheel drive car. I picked to live at the bottom of a hill. I had to buy a four-wheel drive vehicle in order to make sure I could get to the top. So I think some of that is stuff we want to have a conversation around because, I mean, honestly, I don't want the snow plow, but I'd love it if the county, who has lots of equipment, would come mow the lawn every summer. And I'd be happy to pay for that. So I mean, I have a couple of other thoughts, but I think, you know, we've heard loud and clear from our residents that road maintenance is the priority. And I feel like this program actually takes away from our ability to do our number one job, which is to look after the road surfaces and getting the roads clear. And, you know, the statement we all hear all the time is, what if I need an ambulance? Our job is to make sure the ambulance can get to your gate. And when this equipment is in someone's yard, it's not making sure the roads are good. And so I think we want to make sure that we're at least able to keep the roads good. And then as we look back at our budget and what we're doing and what we're trying to do, should we be in this business? And I think there's a wide range of views on that. And then really, is this a priority anyway? If we have to invest more money in more equipment, and we just heard the director say, well, we can, you know, invest in additional people and tractors or not tractors, but equipment for the tractors and pay for locations. And is this something we're willing to increase taxes for? Because I'm not at a place where I'd be willing to say that this is so important that I'd be willing to go to people and raise their taxes for this program.
Councilor Chisholm.
Thank you, Councillor Howell. You bring up really good points, but I do believe that this service, we do need to provide something for our county residents. And the biggest complaint that I get in my areas, well, they don't get a lot of these other services, FCSS and those kind of services. So this is one of the things, like the dust control, and this service is something that I know would probably upset a lot of taxpayers if we didn't provide the service. And again, we're talking about expenses. And again, I'm going to say that we're running the most expensive piece of equipment for service. We can change that. And I think that we should try to just make this a better service. It's needed. And I don't think our ratepayers are going to be happy if we pull it off.
Sir DeHollock, your light's on.
Well, I think Brian or Mr. Hall has some pretty good ideas. I even think about what the hell are we doing in somebody's yard, huh? It's their yard. I think maybe just have a list of contractors available. That'd probably be the easiest. And I don't think it would upset that many people.
So what you're looking at is to completely get away from doing any driveways. Yeah. And I'm gonna cut in here right now and with my thoughts in a way. I love the flag system. I worked with it. I started here with the county looking after driveways when we did them for free. And then we went to the flag system, and seniors for free. And then we went to the flag system with seniors pay so much and other residents that weren't seniors paid so much. And the issue was a lot of it was just to have a little skin in the game. Like if you want your driveway done. And some of it was because I used to look after it, was phone calls into administration. We didn't want that. We didn't want to start having to take phone calls and say, can you do my driveway? And then somebody would have to send it out and make sure that it got done and all this stuff. And because we were up over 1,000 driveways. And that, so that's why part and parcel, we never really thought about going to a call-in system and say, can you do my driveway? So then somebody would call somebody and then keep track, and it would be a user pay thing then. And I guess if administration is looking at maybe doing that, we could try it.
Just as a feedback, there's an app for that.
There's an app for that.
No offense, but I mean, 20 years ago, we all took calls. Nowadays, we have technology that can assist us with that, right? So, yeah.
And exactly,
Yeah.
you know what, exactly, as technology moves forward, it's, you know, I'm still trying to catch up on some stuff, but yeah, so I'm working this through my head right now, a lot of it, but for someone that's been there from the beginning to and a lot of it was what myself and Councillor Hall were trying to do with our last thing was it was equality across the whole board. Did it work? It's looking like it didn't. And it's understandable why it didn't, I guess. If you can't be there and you've paid for it, people get mad, right? So, but Councillor Kevin.
Well, I think administration did a great job at giving us options to consider here, and just listening to everybody's concerns. Going back to option one, if you read into it a little more, is a great compromise. Not only are we not asking people to gamble with their money because it's, you know, paid after service. So it also gives them that option that if they're not happy with that level of service, then they can still go to one of those private businesses if they need more immediate service. So we're not saying no, but there's also that other option. So it sort of is, I think option one's a good compromise.
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, so on the equity part, I think we got the equity right. Everybody gets the same level of ad service. Yeah, but you know, that's not the level of service we'd hoped for. Like that's and I'm inclined to agree with my colleague. Like I don't in general agree that the county should be competing with private industry on stuff. So I think if we're, you know, whether we actually do this work or we don't, I think at the very least, it's important to get ourselves into a place where we can encourage the economic development in the region. And so if we're priced at a market rate, then we can have people who will compete. And if you don't like the speed that we can get to when someone calls in for service and we say, well, you know, we're 3 weeks out before we can get there, they have the option to choose a private contractor that's maybe faster or can get there before us, because then, like, to me, the county's priorities still come back to, I think, to quote the director, our priorities are public roads. And when I think about what problems we're trying to solve, I'm struggling with it a bit. I mean, because when I look at things, I always say, well, what is the real problem I'm trying to solve? Are we trying to solve how we do the driveways? Are we trying to solve that they are driveways to do? And I think that you know, we need to think about that. I mean, I can tell you a couple of quick stories, and one of them is I spoke to a resident when we switched from to the $25 a flag, and I spoke to this gentleman. I said, well, what do you think about that now? Like, what do you think? How does that impact you? And he looked me in the eye and said, I'll tell you what, I will not be paying for the flag. I'll just do it when I do the rest of my yard. So this guy was doing his entire yard with a tractor and leaving his driveway because he could get it for nothing from the county. And, you know, I hired a private contractor for my yard this year, and I have a fairly long driveway. And when that grader was in there, I watched it through the window. It had me worried about how he was going to turn around without hitting stuff that I didn't want him to hit. Because for me, you know, I know they're big because I've stood by them, but when I had it actually inside my yard, I realized how very large and difficult it was to manage that equipment inside such a confined space. And I had some notes. You know, I think it's important we treat residents fairly, you know, equitably. And we often get onto this path about talking about seniors, and I'll be the first to agree that there are vulnerable seniors, but I don't think it's a universal condition. You know, as a cohort, you know, in broad terms, seniors are among the wealthiest groups in Canadian history right now. And so, in fact, many are far better off than people who are in their 20s and 30s. So I struggle with why we're willing to give away something to, a group that has the potential to be more wealthy than a group that is more disadvantaged financially. And so if we want to talk about providing something for free and we want to do an income tested program, or we want to give money to FCSS to run an income tested program, I think those are all good ideas, but as a blanket statement, I think it creates inequity and really is unnecessary to just as a blanket say, based on your age, you automatically qualify. I think the fact is we can design a fair and reasonable program that doesn't discriminate based on with people based on their age. And we can actually look for ways of figuring out how we solve the limited means problem that address the actual problem of, if you can't afford it, then we can run a program for it, or we can even come back to that question. Should I still be living here? And I'll tell you, like, I'm a few years from retiring, but it's something that we talk about in our house. Is this the right house? Is this the right yard? And we kind of have come to the resolution that when I can't manage, or my partner, the stairs or the yard, maybe it's also time to not be in that location. So I think it's a bigger issue. So that first issue, first bullet for me, where a fee for service model, I think has some appeal in terms of setting expectations. If I'm going to call and I'm going to pay, then I can book it and I can pay and I can understand both what it's going to cost, when it's going to happen, and make alternate choices. And if it's priced properly, I think we have the added benefit of actually encouraging people who own equipment to go do that work.
Okay.
I'm not opposed to option bullet 1, but there's the other options that need to be incorporated with it as well. So if the county's going to do it, we got to find a cheaper way to do it. And that would be bullet number 1, 2, 3, 4. Consider different equipment for driveway snow clearing, because that's still an issue. Even if we go with option 1, we're still going to be costing us too much money. So we're going to need that option as well. And again, I still think there needs to be something done for the seniors. And it's not up to us to decide whether they can stay at home or not. That's their decision. So I don't think one option is that do all. I think we have a combination of options that we need to look at for a new policy procedure.
Okay. Councilor Dollar?
Yeah, and consistency is another one. I know there's people get their driveways done and my road needs attention. And yet their driveway is done before any roads are done. You probably know what I'm talking about.
Typically, that's because of the council phone call. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so this is a tough one, man.
I'm sorry. That was
uncalled for.
Councilor Calhoun.
No, I agree. And again, going back to point one, I was just like, it is the best compromise. And I did say with some work to it, and yeah, with equipment and all of that. And maybe blending those two would mean you wouldn't need as many pieces of equipment for those tractors, whatever, because then hopefully they'd be also seeking other options. I don't know.
I gotta remember also, it seems like it's the most expensive piece of equipment and stuff like that, but also it on years that we don't have a whole bunch of snow, it also gives our operators a little bit of time also. So, there's never, Mother Nature will dictate how our winter goes, but and we just have to adapt to it. That's the biggest thing. And if I'd hate to, that's a whole another process in figuring out equipment, what's required. Yeah, that's a big undertaking. I don't know if we'll decide that here or not, but it's a huge undertaking, I guess. I do like the idea of the fee for service, and if they don't like it, well, if we're gonna be too long, then go someplace else. So, Counselor Hall.
I don't mean to, like, I want you to cut your comment short. I was gonna say, I think the questions, as we think this through, do we do driveways or not? That's really the first question. And it seems like probably the balance would say that we should have some involvement in offering a service for them. And then the next questions become, I'm not completely sold on that. I think private industry could do it generally, but I think that seems to me to be the balance of the view in the room. Then for who do we do it and at what cost? And those, like, if we start thinking through it in that way, and then how, right? Like the who, what, how, and how we do it might be with different equipment. We heard a comment about, well, we got to find a way, a cheaper way to do this. I kind of wonder, and if I hear in that and wonder if there'd be agreement, does cheaper, really, would it be better to look at it is there a more cost-effective way to do it? So that includes different equipment, but also includes better pricing. Because I honestly don't care what equipment goes in there if we're getting full value for the equipment. If you want to charge $500 an hour, then and mold costs, send in a cat, but like whatever. If we're net zero at the end, then do what we need to do. And we've heard that. I think though at the root for me, we've heard really clearly residents want better road maintenance. We've heard it this spring, we've heard it over the winter. We continue to hear, like as I get comments, it's about the roads where we're not thrilled about the condition of the road going into the winter. We're not thrilled about the condition of the road all through the winter, and then especially not thrilled about the road at the end of winter. I think we have to remember that this program also takes away from our ability, the municipality's ability to focus on that priority. So if we have it priced appropriately, maybe it will make sense to do it, but also it might actually encourage that better service. And the other piece that I think hasn't come up, but somewhere along the line, we've lost this neighbors helping neighbors, and it's the government should come bail me out, and I should get help from, the county should do everything for me. But remember, many of our business lines are things that cannot be provided by private industry. Right? There's nobody willing to run a private fire truck company. Nobody's really going to come build grade the roads for privately. This is one service we offer that could easily be outsourced or downloaded to private contractors where there is actual third party stuff.
But yeah, how many of these citizens or these seniors could be looking after themselves a little bit? I see them driving a little car with a two-wheel car, instead of buying a 4x4 where they can get out, and they're depending on us. So I don't know, or they clear their yard and they leave the driveway because the county's going to do it. There's a lot more to this than just doing something. I don't know. It's a tough one. I know I've got a neighbor. I got to get out there all the time in the county because he's got a little pickup. He wouldn't buy a 4-wheel drive. Well,
Councillor Callahan.
So just to back up what Councillor DeHollick's saying, and my neighbor's probably watching, so I won't age him, but in his 70s. Guess what? Like I won't age myself either, but I'm a lot younger than he is. And guess who comes and does my driveway clearing? Just saying.
Well, you do see that sometimes, and I know, I see neighbors who pop out. I think, just at the table, those folks who do that, where they grab their neighbor's driveway when they help each other. And if part of our role in the background is to help build community, for me, I think that also, if you're saying, I don't want to do market rate, I'm just going to work with my 3 closest neighbors. I'm going to take turns doing each other's driveways with our quads or our tractors, or there's something good about that helps our community too.
Councillor Cheese, and we're going to go just a little bit more here, and then we're going to have to come up with what do we want administration to come back with a policy, because I don't think this one's going to be moved forward. So it's we can keep beating this to living death, and but we need to know administration needs to know what to bring back, because and when. I don't think it should come back to county council. It should come back to another committee, the whole meeting, to be discussed again. It's one of these. It's the same as dust control and driveway blading. We will beat that to death every year. And that, so we can keep beating this to death, but let's give the administration some clear avenues to go down so we can.
Mr. Chairman, it's only a month till winter, like seriously. So, time is of the essence.
That's right. Okay, so I think
Any program that we offer, we're gonna always have a little bit of abuse of. So, I mean, it is what it is, but in general, I think it's something that we should offer. And I'm gonna say, option bullet point 1 and option bullet point 4 and 5 should all be kind of maybe asking admin to pull all that together and bring it back again and just see what it looks like. So that's my suggestion.
And yeah, so I was gonna say, I like bullet point 1 and 4 sort of blended together. So yeah, if you guys could come up with something for that, and hopefully CAO back is not correct and we have more than a month to get this together.
So what about the seniors? What do we, that's the elephant in the room right now.
I'm sort of at a loss there too. That's why I didn't include that, because like I said, and I know my situation might be different than others, but I know I'm not the only one with a senior helping me out, because lots of our farmers are seniors and they have the equipment to do so. So then what about people that are cognitively delayed? What about people that have a physical disability? What about a single mom? Like, we could go on and on all day. I'm talking about vulnerable people, and not every senior is a vulnerable person. But every vulnerable person is a vulnerable person. So that's sort of why I just went with 1 and 4, because I'm really unsure on where I sit there.
Mr. Stasiak, right on.
Thank you. Listening to all this, I've got some concerns. First question though, is there any screen inside that grader that you could communicate and let the grader operator know on his screen who paid and who didn't? Or does that have to be a phone call or a long-winded thing?
That wouldn't be relevant to the grader operator. That would be us dealing with
Okay,
who paid and who not. Doesn't. We would just give him direction to either blade it or not.
Okay. So the other comment, because I'm in total agreement with a lot of the comments that are made here too. What I will say though, from my observation, is that the grader spends probably 2-3 minutes driving in, backing out, drive past, back in, drop the blade, clean the approach out nice and keep on going. In my particular case, and that doesn't apply to everybody, he could be in and out of my driveway, and I got a long driveway, in and out, clean, done, away he goes. Now, I am one of those people, I plow 8 driveways when I do, and I help all my neighbors. Not only because I want to help them, but I cannot stand when people push snow across the road and leave a ridge for me to bounce over. And I'm wondering, in the considerations that we're going to have to make here, is that why, when they're waiting for the grader, is that why they just push the snow across the road? And then some of them even wait till after the grader goes and then they push it across. So you know how long that takes to get a grader back. But anyway, I'm just wondering if that has any connection here with the level of service that we're going to provide. Are we preventing something by maybe grading their driveway? At the same time, I know of a lot of driveways that are just not wide enough, or they got a gate, or they got an arch across them. And it's a nightmare. It's a total nightmare. I just don't know which way to go with this one, but I'm starting to lean towards maybe just not grading driveways. I don't know.
Yeah, well, Ken, you said you do 8 driveways. Would you mind doing mine?
Absolutely, I would mind. Just haul my tractor and I'll be there.
Go ahead, Mr. Director.
So the concern about pushing across the road, it's illegal to push it across the road. People do it. It can be dealt with under the Highway Traffic Act. not gonna make us popular, but it doesn't matter. It's illegal. So, that's not really a reason why we plow driveways. I think the reasons are different than that. And I guess we can put something together and bring it back based off the direction I'm sure you're gonna give me before the end of this meeting. But there's a couple other things that we haven't discussed that's gonna muddy the water that I would like to
Ooh,
talk
here we
about.
go.
Like we haven't talked about a minimum amount of accumulation, right? So, is it 2 inches? Is it 6 inches? If we're gonna plow driveways, some of the things we would want to do is put in a minimum accumulation right? So fee for service takes that away, right? If you want us to come do a 1/2 an inch, you're gonna get billed for it. So if we decide on a fee for service, that goes away. You're absolutely correct. Probably a time, I don't know, maybe even we had requests to come in late this spring because there was that late snowfall. The driveways were way too soft for us to send a grader in, and we refused, and people weren't happy about it. So, we have to have council support to not go when conditions are not suitable. And I guess, obviously, the minimum widths of driveways and the ability to turn the equipment, all of that stuff we would be putting, just so those are some things that we would put into a draft policy to try and after we know which options or whatever you want to go with, we would tailor some conditions around that at that point.
I actually think that's a great idea, to have some rules. We contract for one of the villages for snow removal, and that's one of the things is it's only so many inches before we are called into snowplow. So I don't think that's a bad thing. So to have that, if we're going to make something, bring back your concerns too. I think that's awesome.
Okay, so do you have enough information of what this council wants? I guess we still haven't decided on the senior. Would you bring the seniors thing back or just out of the blue, or do you want us to decide on seniors? Are we gonna do seniors? Are we gonna, we're gonna give them a cut rate, or are we gonna give so many for free, or how do we want to do this? Council.
Well, I think, okay, so I think we're all on the same page. We're doing driveways. We're probably, it seems like on balance, kind of we should move it closer to you solve a lot of problems by making it a market price. It seems like that it feels like we're close to that as a group. The how seems like more of an administrative operational thing, right? Like does nobody at the table really cares if they send out bobcats or tractors or whatever, if we just decide the program is going to happen. To me, the operational piece is do it the most effective way. But then the question comes back to the for who, right? The seniors, the not seniors, and I'm guessing like what are we trying to solve by giving it away? And that's what I can't get the hurdle I can't pass. And if we're trying to help vulnerable people, is this the right mechanism, or is there a better way to accomplish that? And that's where I would hope we would kind of open the discussion to say, why do we want to do it, first of all, and then and from understanding why we think that they should get it for nothing. Is that really the right mechanism, and are there other people who would qualify that? Because almost every argument I've ever heard that supports giving it away applies to every person at this table. You can't say, well, I've lived here all my life, because you can move in, last week and call for the grader to come to your snow tomorrow, which we may or may not get. And I've never been to the grocery. I've been shopping the same 2 grocery stores for 20 years, and they've never once said, "Oh, you've been here a long time. From now on, the groceries are on us." Like I don't accept, because I'm old or because it's what are we trying to solve? If it's I'm vulnerable and I can't, And let's figure out a program for that, because we've heard that lots of people are very capable, but there's also younger families, single parents, parents who have a spouse that works away. They're equally deserving of our care and our attention and the service of the county to someone who's lived in that, is elderly. So what are we trying to fix by giving it away?
So would you be interested in putting down a fee and maybe charging half for seniors? If you're senior?
For me, I think it's like personally, it's a ridiculous way to define who gets a discount. If we think vulnerable people need help, we should create a program just like they have at the multiplex, where if you're, certain income tested, or the Kids Can Play program, or the Jumpstart program, like the arguments don't really hold water in terms of why we should get it for nothing. Like, just because you have gray hair doesn't qualify you for a discount. No.
Damn it.
Absolutely, some of those people need it, and if it helps them to stay there, it's just figure out how do we manage it in a way. Because I've also had some of those people actually say to me, I should not be getting it for free. Of everybody in my neighborhood, I can most afford to pay for it, but that young couple who moved in with 2 kids down the road or whatever, they probably need it more. Student loans, young family, cars, everybody here is kind of past young kids, but I'm sure we can all remember that when our kids were the youngest is when our budgets were the tightest.
I don't know if they're doing it for vulnerable people.
Yeah, and that's
I
why,
think it'd
that's
be
why I
a
come
bit-
to what problem are we trying to solve?
Yeah,
right?
I think
Why
it'd
are
be
we doing that?
more of a respect thing for the seniors than saying vulnerable. I don't know. That's the way I'm looking at it, but Councillor Calhoun.
Yeah, sorry, both ends have great points. Yeah, and I guess the why, like if we're giving it away for free because of the respect thing, but then there's people that could really use that are vulnerable people. Some of them might be seniors, some of them might be, and other businesses in town have figured out how to give that level of service and identify what vulnerable means. And maybe we could reach out to the multiplex or, to FCSS and figure out how to define something like that, because then it's equitable and fair, right? That's my opinion.
Go ahead.
So would that be a separate program completely outside of this? Where vulnerable, whatever you decided on, whether it be vulnerable people or seniors, would it be a standalone program that's operated outside of this? Is that what the suggestion is? Sorry, I
I'm
thought I
gonna say
kind of heard.
that may not even be the right term, right? Like I don't know if vulnerable people's the right term. To me, it's a separate program.
Yeah, either a separate program or everybody just pays for this level of service. And if they don't agree with it, then there is other services out there that they can seek. There's also grants they can seek for financial help and whatever outside of that as well, that, maybe we could promote. It wouldn't be our job to do that, whatever, but there is other avenues for people to seek out as well.
Thank you. The topic of discussion during the winter seems to be, when is the grader coming? So we had discussed a little earlier in the season here about having extra drivers to get that pass done in, say, 3 or 4 days. Does that alleviate the situation by getting our main roads done faster? Does that change anything? I agree with the user fee. That's not, I don't expect it for free. I do struggle a little bit with seniors. I'm a senior, but if I was 64, I could still be in just as much trouble or need for an ambulance or things like that, or whatever age, right? So that's where I struggle with seniors, and I agree. Some seniors can more than afford it, but that's none of my business anyway. But my thoughts here now are, if we can get our roads done faster by having extra time, does that change anything for grading the driveways as it is now for a fee? How does that affect anything? Because like if we're busy grading a road, we got to be on that road, not in a driveway, for sure. But if we can get that, if we had spare drivers and got that road plowed within a 3-day cycle, maybe we could be catching these driveways as we go by, so we don't have to send another tractor or a truck or anything else. I don't know, just a comment.
Yeah, I guess through the chair, I can't say that I can meet a 3-day, even with the casual operators we've brought on. Those casual operators have been, it'll assist us if nobody's on vacation or nobody's sick or no graders are broke down. It'll assist us in a turnaround time. But those casual operators are going to have to, like, when people get vacation, right? So, they're going to cover off that. They're going to cover off sick days. Yes, they will likely help us with our response time, but I'm not sure it would increase it to a point where 3 days, right? So
even if it was 4 or 5 days, just curious if that scenario would change the reason we would go with a grader into their yard. I'll be the first to say that sometimes graders should not be in a yard. You can't turn them around. But then also one thing I'd like to say though, is I'd like to see implemented a user fee for those of us who eventually, when you plow a driveway 6-7 times and it keeps drifting and it's crowding you into the center of your own driveway, it would sure be nice to get the grader in there just that once to wing that out for you so that you can keep going.
So under a fee for service, if you've signed a hold harmless agreement, then you could do that once a year, right? If you're doing it yourself the majority of the year, and now there's been significant, the only problem is it's, in some cases, if it's too long and it's ice and frozen, we may not be able to wing it either, but yeah, you could still phone, if it was a fee for service, you could do it just once a year, right? And we're going to bill you as per the fee schedule if you've signed, a hold harmless agreement.
We had, from the information there, we had about 227 driveways this year. I remember it being over 1,000. And so does administration kind of know if out of the 227, how many seniors are on there? Probably not. Eh? Okay. No, because it seems to me right now that a lot of seniors are doing their driveway. And maybe in the long run, us going to the $200 and not push people into a different avenue to look for driveway clearing, and which may help us out on this fee for service now. So I'm okay with the fee for service, and I guess across the board, and then we can, this will get beat up again. So
We'll draft up what we think we heard and we'll bring it back. And then,
awesome.
Right?
Thank you.
and then you can, if you decide to X out the section on this or whatever, fine.
Yeah, because it's with the 3 other members here, we just lost another one.
Yep.
This is going to be beat up again.
Yep.
And so would that be coming back like at the next committee, the whole meeting, or
Yeah, we'll see.
or do we need a motion to bring it back, or
No,
no? No, it's going to come back. Okay.
Keep in mind, you only have 1 month until winter again.
It snowed on
Thank you.
Saturday, so. No, thank you very much for that information. It's never an easy one to go through. It's not. I've been up this mountain and I've rolled down many a times on it. So that's one thing I was thinking about this morning, was like, oh my Lord. So thank you very much for bringing this forward. Looks like we need to, that's taken pretty well everything other than the closed session item. Motion to go into closed. Do we need to accept that for information or not? No, okay. So Councillor Calhoun has made a motion to go into closed. All in favor? Motion carried. We are now in closed.